Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
Denny Avija, he's out of Israel.
Wasn't he in a Star Trek movie?
He was.
Beecher, yeah.
Beecher. That was the first
He's actually the Voyager 1 space program.
I believe it was Voyager 6 was Beecher.
Oh, okay. Well, you're a bigger nerd than I am then.
Apparently we're both, yeah. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Log Room. It is Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you. And with me, as always, are none other than Mr. RadioPete, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, guys.
Hello, guys.
Howdy.
How the hell are you today?
You know, I don't know. I think I'm okay.
Well, I wouldn't know. You would, I hope.
Depends on who you ask.
Okay is okay.
Okay is okay.
Okay is okay.
In this case, okay.
Well, it's not okay. Good. Okay isn't good. Good is good.
Yeah,
you know?
Okay is okay.
Okay is okay.
I think in these times, okay is pretty good.
Yeah.
Someone goes, "How you doing?" And they go, "Okay." And like, thank goodness. I'm glad to hear that. I'm lousy. Thanks
You're
for
okay.
asking.
That's pretty good.
You're okay. I hate you.
Yeah, these times are a little. You can shift the average there. The line moves. It's fluid.
The language is fluid. Yeah.
Exactly. So, in any event, it is the 27th of January, and today is a very auspicious occasion, anniversary-wise. It's the 30th anniversary of the 91 Super Bowl for the 1990 season. Super Bowl 25, that is, played by the Giants and the Bills, hence the jersey I'm wearing tonight. For those of you just listening to the audio podcast, I have a Super Bowl 25 Mark Bavaro jersey on.
Mark Bavaro negligee on.
Mark Bavaro negligee I have on, yes. The panties are amazing.
He's got wide right thong on.
Unfortunately, it's wide right and wide left, so it kind of covers both, or not, depending on how you look at it, or don't look at it. Anyway,
let's not look at it.
Let's not look at it. In any event, yes, the Super Bowl 25 was happening 30 years ago, right at this moment. It's probably somewhere just finishing.
I bet there's a group of fans somewhere that are watching the tape of it now. They get together every year and they're like, "Let's watch that Super Bowl that they won."
Put it on at 6:40 at game time. They put it on, and had Whitney singing the national anthem, which was probably the best national anthem to date. I still say.
Is that the one where she was sweating like Patrick Ewing in overtime?
I'm not sure. Was it?
Yeah, I think so. She was. Well, whatever. Don't want to trash Whitney Houston.
Well, we should definitely thank Marv Levy for not realizing that if he just ran the ball, that he could win the game very easily. So, thanks, Marv Levy, for making the '86 Giants championship team look refined compared to the 1990 Giants championship team.
Well, who knew that Thurman Thomas was any good?
Yeah, I think the '90 team is one of my favorite teams of all time. Having said that, if you really think about it, it was probably the ugliest team to ever win a Super Bowl. Not just, I mean, they just beat. It was a back alley brawl.
It absolutely was.
And thanks to Bill Belichick, thank you. He ran a scheme, and it wasn't until halfway through the fourth quarter that Marv Levy figured, well, they only have two down linemen. Maybe if I run the ball, this will help. Thank God that Scott Norwood missed, and there wasn't another 3 minutes left in the game because Buffalo could have scored another two touchdowns.
It could be different at that
point. Who knew that Thurman Thomas was good? The creators of Tecmo Bowl.
They knew.
That guy is a nemesis on that game.
He might be one of the most underrated players of all time.
If you play the Bills in any of the Tecmo Bowl games, you just pick one of the Thurman Thomas run plays every play, and you try and cover the pass, but you pick a run play because if you pick a pass play and they give it to him, he's gone touchdown.
Him and Roger Craig were of that era were sort of like the prototypical dual threat. I mean, they took it to another level.
Yeah, you know what though? I mean, in that game though, I mean, as good as Thurman Thomas was once he got going,
once they gave him the ball,
Otis Anderson, though. I mean, to talk about
totally
gritty.
Different. I mean, that personified.
Nasty,
There's two plays that personified that season for the Giants. The one was Hostetler literally putting his helmet in the middle of Richard Dent's chest and driving him into the end zone in the playoffs.
Right.
And the second was the forearm by Otis Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Who at that point was, I think, 80 pounds heavier than he was when he came in the league. He was like a pulling guard. They just, instead of him out, they just handed him the ball. He was like Bart Oates, but they gave him the ball.
Yeah.
He was great. I mean, that's what personified that team. What did they? How many times did Hostetler throw the ball in the Super Bowl? 19, 16,
11.
Small amount. Yeah, they just grounded it out. I mean, they started the second half with the ball, and there was like 3 minutes left in the second half when they finished that drive.
Oh, the Giants' defense played incredible. Everson Walls was spectacular.
Who had more pass attempts in the Super Bowl, Hostetler or what's his name?
Kelly
for the Ravens.
Oh,
Flacco.
Well, Flacco sort of is kind of like the next generation of Jeff Hostetler. Slightly more talented, maybe not quite as tough, but yeah. I mean, Hostetler was a mobile quarterback. He put himself in harm's way way too much.
Way too much.
And he was actually had a couple really good. I think it was 2, maybe 3 seasons with the Raiders when he went out there. But he always got up and his helmet was sideways. I don't think I ever saw him slide.
No, he didn't. Yeah. He just no. I mean, but he took a licking and he kept on ticking. So
he had that cheesy UPS driver mustache.
I knew I was waiting for you to say that.
He was kind of a cartoon come to life in many ways.
30 years ago, that man right there was calling him the UPS man. So
he just looked like. I mean, come on, let's face it. If Jeff Hostetler dropped a package off at your door, you'd thank him and say, not even blink, twice.
Absolutely.
Of course. I'm also the same person who says that if Phil Simms doesn't get hurt, the Giants do not win the Super Bowl that year. And I'll stick with that because Phil Simms is maybe one of the most overrated Giants of all time.
You know what? I still loved Phil Simms, and he still holds the Super Bowl record for completion percentage, and he was the first.
He had a great Super Bowl, but he didn't have a great year in '86.
No, I mean they were a gritty team back then too. It was like a
back. It
was a street brawl that entire season was.
He sort of had a little bit of Daniel Jones-itis too. Right. With many interceptions.
But I say the same thing. As much as I like Phil Simms and always will respect him and always will be thankful he was the Giants quarterback. If Phil Simms does not get hurt in that Bills regular season game, I think it was week 14, maybe 13, 14. If he doesn't go down hurt, Giants don't win the Super Bowl. But yeah, and you mentioned Everson Walls before. I just had that picture ready, so that was.
Wasn't he on the cover of
cover Sports Illustrated?
Yeah,
and that was the cover right there.
Thanks, Cowboys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing much with the Cowboys. So we got a comment here. John Donovan says has a comment here, and I think he was referring to your Ravens comment before, Pete. But it's just amazing the one word that he put in this comment. Ready?
Dilfer. Yeah, that's
Dilfer.
Here's
I couldn't remember his name.
This is going to blow your mind. This is how
Dilfer.
This is how much the Giants controlled the ball in that game. Hostetler threw the ball 32 times. He went 20 for 32, 222 yards and a touchdown. Jim Kelly went 18 for 30 with only 212 yards. Hostetler had more yards passing than Kelly.
Yeah, and it was a crazy game. It was an amazing game, and yeah, you're absolutely right. There's another 2-3 minutes in that game, and Buffalo wins. But you know what? There wasn't. They didn't. So, there we go. That's
back when a 42-yarder was
much
more of a gamble.
It was 47 that he
47. Oh, okay. So even worse.
I don't know. I think extra points are the biggest gamble in today's NFL. Absolutely. How many extra points do these guys miss? They can kick a 60-yarder, but they can't kick an extra point anymore. It's just
I guess it gets in their head. I don't know what the hell it is. They in the Chiefs game, we'll talk about it in a little bit.
They moved it back a little bit, right?
Well, they moved it back, and I think what happens is, A, the guys who have been in the NFL forever are not used to it, and B, the guys coming out of college are used to the chip shots too. So it's
a 23-yarder now, right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's like a 23-yarder.
Well, what's it before?
It was a 20-yarder.
It's more than 23 now, right?
It's a 33-yarder. It's 33-yarder.
33-yarder, yeah.
33-yarder. Because they kick from the
they used to kick from the 2.
Yeah. They used to kick from the 2. They line up on the 15 now. So they kick from the 10-yard line. It was a 20-yard field goal or extra point at that point, obviously. Now they line up on the 15, so they got it at the 23. So it's a 33-yarder. That's where the 23 came into my mind there. On the 23-yard line, but it's a 33-yard.
That was a great move.
Point.
That was totally necessary.
Yeah. So, there we go. John Donovan says, yeah, 30. It's a 30-yarder. There you go. Thanks, Sean.
All right. So we got the Super Bowl reminiscence, and we figured out how
far the extra points
extra point is, and there's nothing else in the NFL.
Nothing else screams ratings like the 1991 Super Bowl and the history of extra points.
Well, it's just that it's today. It's the
used to drop kick it with my leather helmet on the side.
You could still do that.
Drop it, swing your leather helmet, and hit it. Yeah. So. But in any event, yeah. So congratulations, or I shouldn't say congratulations. Happy anniversary to the 1990 Giants on your 30th anniversary of your Super Bowl 25 win. Anyway, and speaking of the MVP of that Super Bowl, Otis Anderson, just to get a couple of quick Giants things out of the way here. On a podcast the other day, he said that Saquon Barkley going forward should watch what Wayne. I want your take on this. Saquon Barkley going forward should watch what Wayne Gallman did this past season. And he
meaning not get hurt.
Well, I guess that might have something.
Wait for your blockers.
Well, he drew similarities between himself and Saquon, meaning in the beginning of his career, he was all about the home run. He just wanted to, every time he got the ball, he wanted the home run. He wanted the home run. That was what he was. And in his first season, when he was first in the league, he was with the Cardinals. His first season, he had like 1,700 yards, so he was getting the home run. And then the opposing teams figured him out, and then not so much anymore. Kind of what happened with Saquon, and he kind of reinvented himself. And it was just you got to get those. You got to worry about the 2 and 3 yard runs. Get the 2-yard run. Get the 3-yard run. Get the 4-yard run. Forget about trying to make something happen on every play, and just get the 2-yard run. Get the 3-yard run, and eventually you're going to break one, and you'll run it, and so forth and so on. Now that's not what Saquon Barkley's about. We know that. What he's about is the flash. Is the home run on every time he's got the ball. But that was season 1, not 2, and he was hurt, and not 3, and he was hurt.
Yeah, do we even have enough evidence to really say this is what Saquon Barkley is all about?
We don't, and that's where Otis Anderson was going. And I think the Clemson had a little to do with it with Wayne Gallman, and because he said when he first met Wayne Gallman, he always liked him because he found out that he was the running back that was the featured back on a national championship that Clemson won, and so he's always liked him for that. And then what he was able to do, stepping up for Barkley this past season. So I don't know that Barkley should do that. I'm just saying that's what Otis Anderson said on the podcast.
Otis Anderson was around a long time.
Long time.
He was on the 86-87 team, wasn't he?
He was on the Giants for both of the Super Bowls in the 80s. Yeah.
And he didn't play much because wasn't that Rodney Hampton time?
No,
that was later. That was the 91.
Joe Morris.
Little train time.
The 3 running backs actually on the 86 team were Joe Morris, Otis Anderson, and George Adams, actually. Jamal Adams' father, George, was a running back or fullback. He was a back on the Giants 86 team. But, Rodney Hampton was on the 90 team.
He got hurt, right?
He got hurt. That was his
his
first year.
So the Giants went into the playoffs without their starting running back and their starting quarterback.
That would be correct, yes.
Yeah.
And they won it with
That's
Otis
what you
Anderson.
call a winning formula.
They won it with Otis Anderson, who was in his 15th season as a running back.
That's right.
OJ.
He was well rested.
Yeah. And Haas. So, well, there you go. And the other thing I wanted to mention, too, is that Eli Manning and John Mara sat down together the other day. They had to sit down. Apparently, Mara wants to get Eli back involved with the team in some capacity, not like a coaching role or anything like that. But
run, Eli, run.
Like a mentor or something like that. And he apparently still speaks with Daniel Jones all the time, or a good amount of the time, whatever. And Eli was quoted as saying he likes where DJ's going. It's he's learning. Last year was his second year. This year coming up is going to be very important. It's his 3rd season. If he wants a contract after his 4th season, he's going to have to do something this year. So,
is Sam Darnold learning too?
Well, that brings us to the Jets. I don't know. Jets have a lot of options at quarterback.
The Jets just signed Trevor Bauer.
So Trevor Bauer's going to be pitching for the Jets.
Going to be playing quarterback.
That's pretty good.
They might be able to get 3 wins.
Maybe.
I think so. He only plays every 5th game.
I was going to say, he's not going to want to play every Sunday. So
no.
He needs a couple
days off. He's only good to the 3rd inning. I mean, the 3rd quarter. And then
the 3rd quarter, and then you got
to
bring
in a reliever. 2 or 3, depending on the situation.
So, anyway, I'll have to use that. Anyway, I mean, Deshaun Watson's still out there, and
he wants to go to the Jets. He wants to go to the Jets.
Deshaun Watson wants to go to the Jets.
Do whatever you can to get him. He wants to go.
Is that actually true?
Yes.
Is that actually true?
Yes.
Did he reaffirm that? Because I'm hearing now that he never actually said that.
Supposedly, it's on very good authority. Well, he doesn't want anybody to know that because he doesn't want to play his hand. But supposedly, it was between Miami and the Jets, and he prefers
to go to the Jets.
So
it's all about Robert Saleh.
While he has this some sort of derangement syndrome going on, take advantage of it.
Can't disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the equivalent of somebody going, I really want to go to the Knicks.
Sign.
Yes. Take advantage of it.
Really wants to go to the Knicks, and it's not like.
I mean, if Deshaun Watson wanted to go to the Knicks, I would sign him for that. I mean, it's just. No,
Well, hey, the Knicks had a good quarterback, on the team.
They had the best quarterback in New York.
Best quarterback in New York for many years in the 90s. Yeah. Yes, they did. Yeah.
And I believe he was
Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah,
he was a Heisman Trophy winner, and who was his coach?
Jeff Van Gundy.
No, in college.
In college.
Who did he play for? Charlie Ward played for Florida?
Was it Florida? I'll have to check.
Yeah, I forget. Well, anyway, whoever his coach is a very famous guy, said he was the best quarterback he ever coached.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that statement. Who said it?
He said, who's the best quarterback? Charlie. Charlie was.
Charlie Ward.
Whatever the hell his name was.
And he didn't want to play football. He wanted to play basketball.
Yeah, so, listen, the Jets, they hired a coach. We'll see if he works out. Seems like a good move. They're doing things.
Florida State.
Florida State, yeah.
So is Bobby Bowden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, so is Bowden. Said, Charlie, he's the best. So, so we'll see if, again, as I said weeks and weeks ago, the Jets have a number of things to do correctly, and confidence is not high that they will do too many of them correctly, or maybe at that point, any of them correctly. But obviously the question is still out on the coach, but it looks like a good move. Yep. We'll see if he really wants to come to the Jets, then you move heaven and earth to get him there. And, that means Sam Darnold and, virtually whatever else they want.
Right.
Well, it's going to be obviously their pick in this year's draft, and it's going to be probably a couple other.
It's going to be this year's number 2 pick. It's going and then the Jets have another number 1 pick too that they got from
like 18th or something like that. No.
Yeah. And then another number 1 next year, and then maybe a 2 or a 3 somewhere in there, and Sam Darnold.
Right.
So I mean, but you don't need Sam Darnold if you're getting Deshaun Watson. So.
But I don't think that
what,
I don't think that Houston's going to trade with someone unless they're going to get a quarterback.
Look, here's
back
the thing.
that his lease is going to play for them.
Right.
They don't want some hack in there.
Well, if they get the Jets pick, then obviously they can pick a quarterback.
Well, if they get Darnold with the number 2 pick, are they going to take?
I mean, they could do the same thing. They could say, well, we got Darnold under contract for 2 years. We'll get a quarterback. We're going to use that number 2 pick and fill some other holes. Although they're obviously going to be in a rebuilding mode. And you're right. There's a couple of good quarterbacks, or at least one. But we know, barring a miracle, Lawrence is not going to be there. So they might want to go with a quarterback, or they might want to just.
And it seems like people have finally come to their senses, and both Devonta Adams and Lamar Chase are both looking like they're going to be 2 and 3, which, originally they were projecting Devonta going 11th, 12th. I'm just like,
they were going to think Devonta was going to fall to the Giants at 11.
Yeah, and then Jamar Chase is still. Some people think he's better than he didn't play last year though. That's the big thing.
But anyway, he was rated higher than. And I think I called him Sam Bradford again. Did I do that?
Yeah.
Did you?
I did that last week or the other week. Sam Darnold. I know the guy's name. I've forgotten his name already. He's gone in my mind.
Sam Darnold's middle name is Bradford, so that's what's throwing you.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think if you're Houston, you pick a quarterback, even if you'd have to take Darnold with the pick and maybe move Darnold. I don't know.
Well, then, if you get the quarterback you want, you take the quarterback and you move Darnold, right? And you get
you're gonna get a quarterback back, whether it's Tua or whether it's Darnold Bradford, and whether you want that guy to be your starter or whether you want him to be your backup or whether you're gonna trade him.
Or you get a really good wide receiver or elsewhere. You keep Darnold in there for a year, you tank again, and then you get a quarterback next year.
Right.
Do that too.
Yeah, you could do that too.
So everybody has a lot of options.
Yeah, and there's just a couple things. The Jets, over the past 5 seasons, the Jets have had the league's worst win percentage over the last 5 seasons, 28.7% of all 32 teams. And Darnold, number 3 pick in 2018, was supposed to turn the franchise around, right? Only Mitchell Trubisky has a lower passer grade over the past 3 seasons.
All right, listen, I don't know
you
why
can't
you
put
decided,
that on Darnold, but yeah,
I don't know why you decided to bash the Jets tonight.
I'm not bashing the Jets.
No. First of all, it's 30 years ago the Giants were winning a Super Bowl.
I'm getting two separate conversations.
Look, by the way, I would argue the Jets did a better job this year than the Giants because the Jets have themselves in a position to get Deshaun Watson and/or a second.
Absolutely. Well, see, this is my point. I'm not saying this to bash the Jets.
Giants fans sit there going, "Oh, we almost made the playoffs."
Right.
Joe Judge is the next Bill Parcells.
I'm not bashing the Jets. What I'm saying is looking at those two facts, those two stats. Okay. The fact that they're turning it around, they got Robert Saleh in there, they got Mike LaFleur coming in, offensive coordinator, and everything they're doing with the coaching staff. Deshaun Watson wants to come to the Jets. Do it. Turn all of those stats around. That's my point.
I think Houston has a big say in that. But yeah, Houston can kind of set what they want to get what they want to get for him, and I think you have to make this thing work.
Yeah. And
we don't know how much anybody else really wants Deshaun Watson as far as where he might want to go. How much does Miami want him?
Well, why would they? Why? I mean, yeah, I understand. Obviously, he's a much more accomplished quarterback.
Don't you think Miami's kind of? I got the sense Miami was all in with Tua, especially with the fact that they kind of gave him the starting role over Fitzgerald.
I would think so. I would think so too. But I mean, there are concerns about his health. You have to have concerns about his health.
Sure.
And if you're going to bring in one of the top quarterbacks in the league who's 25 and is already established versus a guy who might break his hip next year for the third time in his, I think he had hip problems or whatever, ankles or whatever it was that he's injured both legs, right?
He's had his ankles wired together. Come on.
So, we got a shot to get Watson and he wants to come here. That's
well, you answered your own question then. You said how many people are interested in Deshaun Watson. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Right.
And the top quarterback who wants, unless Aaron Rodgers is really serious about leaving, he's the top quarterback actively pulling a James Harden and going, I want out of here.
Yeah, right, but they've got to get going anywhere. So.
They've got to get somebody who can play back for him. Right. I think that limits the number of teams they're going to be interested in dealing with. The
Jets have a better asset and a higher pick than Miami. So, yeah, you might not be. I think the player who they get, whether it's Tua or Darnold, is irrelevant. I really do. I think it's how many picks can they package for this trade. And, oh, by the way, you get an old Xerox machine and Sam Darnold.
Right. And we'll throw in a
really do. I hate to throw Darnold under the bus, but and maybe he can have a little bit of a better go of it in Houston if he does get the opportunity to at least start there for 1 year. But Houston's in a situation where they're going to want as many picks as they possibly can for him.
Sure.
Right.
No, we'll see what happens.
And the Jets have that.
And moving on around in other quarterback news, I'll just throw that up there. It's something else. The Jets it's been out there and talked about. Another quarterback looking for a trade, Matthew Stafford, wants out of Detroit. Now, granted, he's 130 compared to Deshaun Watson.
Doesn't get. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Jets fan, but I'm excited about Deshaun Watson playing for the Jets. I'm not. Matthew Stafford is. I put him in like what 1 year opportunity is he going to go and become the Phillip Rivers of 2020?
Well, but he's only 32 or 33 years old.
He's got a few
Indy
years.
would be the place.
Indy would be the place for that.
They're not exactly enamored with Jacoby Brissett, but you could get. Look, you can't say that 35 is the end of the quarterback's run anymore, right?
I mean, what other team I think would go for Stafford? I think a team that'd be perfect for Stafford would be New England.
Yep.
Yeah, you can look at it that way.
And I think Indy maybe has a little bit more upside right now, but I mean, if Stafford really wants to win, I at some point the Patriots are going to have to invest in players again.
Yeah, they're going to have to. And hey, you know what?
Having said that, Indianapolis, their offense was, and especially their passing game was pretty good this year. Yeah, they did a good job of protecting Phillip Rivers. Which Stafford's in the same boat. He's a pocket quarterback who's, going to let it rip.
They rebuilt that offense to take care of Andrew Luck, but unfortunately he was not able to continue playing. So you had this good offensive line that protected Brissett last year and
Rivers
this year. So I think that would, and they're definitely set up to win. Or at least compete now. So
Stafford's 6 years younger than Rivers too. I mean,
he's 32 or 33 years old.
He's got some tread on the tires left. So.
And I think he's a very good quarterback. Who has he ever had?
Well, he had arguably the best receiver of all time until he retired at the age of 12.
Well,
at those 13. But there's some other free agents too. I mean, Trubisky's a free agent. Jameis Winston's a free agent. Jacoby Brissett is a free agent.
Imagine if Stafford went to the Bears.
That would be.
If I'm Matthew Stafford and I'm looking at it, the thought of playing for Belichick is intriguing. But the Patriots have nothing to excite a quarterback. No. Maybe other than the fact that they probably have their offensive line is pretty decent. I think Indianapolis is the best step into it situation where he can,
And also, if you go to the Patriots, you may have to deal with the Jets, who have Deshaun Watson. You've got the Bills to deal with, and you've got an up-and-coming Miami who was much better this past season and figures to be. So you're like, well, I'm going to walk into a division where there's three teams that are, at least on paper and probably on the field, better than the one that I'm on, which has a history of not bringing in stars anyway. That's not necessarily the situation you want to go to.
I mean, the other team I could see Stafford playing for, the other two teams, one I think is a little bit more logical than the other, is I could see him, and I don't think the Redskins are set on a quarterback. I could picture him going to Washington. And if the Cowboys don't come to an agreement with Dak Prescott, I could picture him playing for the Cowboys.
Yeah, he's a free agent after this year too, because they put the franchise tag on him last year, right?
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. You keep mentioning Stafford and Belichick. Matt Patricia got the Josh McDaniels treatment. He's going back to New England. So hey, that is that an enticement for Stafford to go up there, or is that a deter?
It's not. Yeah, Patricia was not liked by that team, and I don't think Stafford was an exception.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Indianapolis to me makes the most sense for him. The other team that I think he could step in if they don't draft another younger quarterback, because you don't know what's going to happen with Roethlisberger, is I think the Steelers. I think there's a lot of veteran quarterbacks who I don't think it's a definite they're going to be with their team next year.
You can even look at the Rams, although it's they're either going to make Goff a very, very well-paid backup guy. If they get rid of him, I think I heard it's like $60 million against the cap, or $41 million, something outrageous.
That's a lot.
But they certainly have not given any indication that he's their guy, and we're dedicated to keeping him. So again, you might be willing to put him on the bench if you can bring in, but Stafford's a starting quarterback. Yeah, but he's going to get paid pretty well too. So
right,
But I mean,
there's 4 or 5 years left in him.
You take that Rams defense and you put Matthew Stafford at the quarterback to the quarterback position. Right. That team gets measurably better offensively.
True, that's true.
I'm not sure about that. I think Goff had a bad year. I think people have selective memory. He was lighting it up a few years ago when they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he wasn't lighting it up in the last couple of years.
No,
it's been a couple of years. It's been
I don't think he's washed up and he's terrible and he just had one great year. I don't think. I think it's likely that he is a better quarterback than he has shown.
He's not as good a quarterback as he was in 2017. He's a better quarterback than he was in 19 and 20.
It's a matter of patience, though, and patience generally tends to run thin, especially when you've got that defense and you're kind of knocking on the door.
I think Indy or Washington. I could picture him playing for the Redskins, and the Redskins have a lot of upside. I think going into next year, or not the Redskins, the football team. I'm sorry,
football team. Get it straight.
They've got a pretty good defense too. So
that's what I mean.
They've got something to work for.
Yeah. So, well, we'll see what happens. The only other NFL news.
Go sit down, Smith. Nice job.
Yeah, really.
Well, I'm not even sure he's going to be back.
He's playing with half a calf.
Where else is he going to go?
Okay, in the leg that was injured, he's playing with.
He's hurt again. I'm not sure he's going to be back.
You mean to play?
To play. I mean,
that's a possibility too.
I mean, for what he was able to do, recover, and come back and play in the games that he actually played in this past year. Kudos to him. Hats off. But you're going to keep doing that? I mean, where are you going?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that'll be interested in Stafford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one other quick note. Jason Witten is retiring.
Again.
This time he says it's for good. He's planning to sign a 1-day contract with Dallas. So he can, so he doesn't retire.
And Gronk are going to star in a buddy film.
Right. Well, Gronk, who the hell knows what Gronk's going to do? So, but all right. Well,
he's going to go to the AFC Super Bowl.
Speaking of Gronk,
real quick on Matthew Stafford. This is an interesting report. 1/3 of NFL teams have called the Lions about Matthew Stafford.
1/3. So, 10.6 teams have called the Lions,
and that's just more about the state of the quarterback than anything else. But he's a quality quarterback.
He is. Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than the team around him.
Yeah. Right. He is a little prone to sort of throwing interceptions, but that's why I feel like he'd be a perfect Phillip Rivers replacement.
Pick one out, put him in. Yeah, there you go. So, but hey. We'll see how that all shakes out. Again, speaking about Gronk, let's move on to championship weekend. What did we think of the games? Let's start with the first one, the Bucks over the Packers.
Oh yeah, there were a couple games. I remember watching them.
Well, what's interesting is that it's really incredible. And Brady didn't have a great game, but
no,
I would say at least
Rodgers had a much better game than Brady did.
Well. Brady came through in the moments when they needed to. That touchdown that they scored at the end of the second quarter, right before the half, that was the end of the game.
Yeah, you know what? I honestly, the stats all, I mean, not by much, but the stats all favor the Packers for the whole game. First down.
Stats don't win you football
Stats don't win you. No, I know. Time of possession, turnovers, everything else. The fact, the bottom line is, look, and you both of you know, I was texting up a storm on Sunday afternoon, and the refs throwing that flag on that one play did not cost the Packers that game. In fact, the things that cost the Packers the game, as far as I'm concerned, at this point, out of the heat of the moment, if you will, whatchamacallit, the sacks, the offensive line for Green Bay sucked. Quite frankly,
and I think that's a testament to Tampa Bay's defense. And boy, Giants had a JPP look.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess he was washed up, but not worth paying.
Rodgers was he didn't have a second He didn't have any time. That offensive line did nothing for him most of the game. I mean, the sacks was at 5-1. Rodgers sacked 5 times, if I'm not. Yeah, 5 times.
They had a good defensive scheme, and they're gelling at the right time. Yeah. This is a team that needed a little bit of time to gel. Yeah. I quite honestly, you could say that there was a couple breaks, tip balls, whatever, that kind of went in Green Bay's favor, and
that's the other
Tampa
thing.
Bay sort of gave them an opportunity to stay in the game.
That's the other thing too. Green Bay didn't take complete advantage of those turnovers.
Yeah. They scored. That's why they lost.
Yeah, and the Bucs scored tons of points off of the turnovers that they had.
Tom Brady now has as many NFC championship wins as Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, together. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, it's
and to say that Tampa Bay hasn't beaten anybody to get to where they're at. Look, obviously Kansas City is a favorite going into this, but I just can't rule out a team led by Tom Brady. You just can't. I mean, I picked the Packers because my Spock side said Green Bay should win this game.
Yeah,
but I was rooting for Tampa Bay.
Green Bay should have won the game.
Yeah. But we've heard that a lot. Green Bay should have won the game. Green Bay should have won the game. Green Bay has lost a lot of NFC championship games with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Just like the Saints have lost a lot with Drew Brees and woulda, coulda, shoulda, calls, penalties, blah blah blah, whatever.
5 actually, right?
Yeah. 50 touchdowns and 4 interceptions during the regular season and all that. Yeah. This puts a bit of a tarnish on Aaron Rodgers' legacy. There's no question about that.
And Tampa Bay's got a balanced attack. Their running game looks better than it has all year, and their defense is playing the best that they played all year. And if they can somehow miraculously keep this game within a score against Kansas City and wind up with the ball in their hand at the end of the game, they got a chance. Now, I think at the end of the day, Kansas City's speed is just what's going to beat anybody. You just can't control them for as long as you want.
No.
But there's no guarantee that Kansas City won't have a turn. I mean, Kansas City had turnovers against Buffalo. Drop punts, and Buffalo I think Tampa Bay's better poised and more experienced to take advantage of those opportunities than Buffalo did.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it should.
But Green Bay got 3 interceptions on 3 consecutive drives.
Right.
Tip balls or not, they got the turnovers and they got 7 points out of it, and he just can't do that. And then the whole. What do we think about the field goal?
You got to go.
For it. First of all, Rodgers on 2nd down and 3rd down on that series could have run into the end zone. At the very least, he could have run for half of the distance on 2nd down and the rest of it on 3rd down.
Yeah, there was
nobody in front of him, and he was looking to pass the ball. He did not want to take off. I don't know why.
That 3rd down play was a big screw up on his part.
Absolutely.
If he had pump faked the pass that he ended up throwing and then just taking off, he would have gotten down.
But you have to give. It looks that way, especially when you look at it in slow motion or you're looking at it on a television screen. But he knows it better than anybody else in real time. He also knows what he's capable of and what the best option was. And did he make the wrong move? Maybe, but
definitely.
He thought he thought he was going to have another shot at it.
I don't think. Well, that's the first.
Well,
problem.
he thought he was going to. Yeah, exactly. And they should not have kicked the field goal.
Right, and I mean they should have been aware of what was going on.
But having said that,
some communication
in LaFleur's defense, they were one play away from at least giving Rodgers 1 or 2 shots, probably from long distance, to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's actually a pretty good defense for kicking the field goal there. I still disagree with the call.
I think it was about. I think if it's 3 minutes or over, you definitely kick the field goal. I think that they were right at 2 minutes and 3 seconds or something.
2 minutes and 5 seconds. But here's the thing: if you look at the second half of that game, okay, take the turnover and the Tampa Bay touchdown right at the beginning of the 3rd quarter or the second half.
Right.
Take that out, okay, because that's a fluke. All right, that happened at 13:58, I think, left in the 3rd quarter. For the next 29 minutes, basically, Green Bay held Tampa Bay to a field goal.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a defense that's kind of rising throughout the second half. And yes, Green Bay got a couple of touchdowns, but the offense was kind of fading, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at your offense doing better than your defense doing better than your offense in the first half. You've got three plays that have gone nowhere from the 8-yard line. Any scenario that results in Green Bay winning that game in regulation, save one, includes getting a stop, unless they score and get an onside kick and get the ball back, which is a very low percentage play.
Sure.
So whether they get the touchdown, whether they kick the field goal, whether they get the touchdown and the 2-point conversion, whether they get nothing out of that 4th down play, they have to get a stop in order to win the game.
Right.
So you could say LaFleur saying, all right, we got our timeouts, right? And it was a kind of a fluky thing with the encroachment, the way they actually got a first down, but it was a 1 first down situation. We got to stop Tampa Bay from getting a first down or the game's over.
Yeah,
so,
I don't have as much of a problem with the call as everybody
Why
else.
not put those 3 points on the board, take your timeouts, either you get the stop or you don't. If you get it, you're going to have more time, and then you're going into the end zone for the win.
Right.
Now, because it was the 8, I think you and because it's Aaron Rodgers, you go for the win right there. And again, whether you get the 2-point or you tie it or you don't, if you get nothing out of it, they're on the 8-yard line. But either way, no matter what happens, you still have to get the stop.
Right.
And if you do get the touchdown and you do get the 2 points, then the clock kind of goes out of the situation. You still have to get the stop, but it doesn't matter if you get the stop. If you get the stop with 45 seconds left, great. Then you've got a chance to maybe get some yards and kick a field goal and win the game. If you get the stop with 1 second left, no big deal. You're tied and you're going to overtime and you take your chances there.
Right.
So logic, there is an argument to be made. If you're gonna win that game in your Green Bay, you have to stop Tampa Bay at some point.
And you got to either score and get a 2-point conversion to tie, or you got to score twice to win.
Right. I figure that I call that you need 2 scores either way. I think a 2-point conversion, that's a scoring play.
Mm-hmm.
And a field goal is a scoring play, and a touchdown is a scoring play. An extra point, it's interesting. We talked about how they're missing it, but it's generally not a scoring play. You can't get it any time. You can only get it after a touchdown. Right. So yeah, you have to have 2 scoring plays, whether it's touchdown, 2-point, or whether it's touchdown, field goal. So I think there is a defense to be made. Now you might say it's a little bit too cerebral to look at it that way, and you've got Aaron Rodgers. And you might as well go for it.
Like I said, I don't think it's a bad. I think it's a 50-50.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a logic to.
I think what skewed everybody's opinion is Rodgers sort of pouting. Rodgers kind of used it as an excuse.
Right. Yeah, he did. Look, I put more stock in the fact that Rodgers should have ran on 2nd and 3rd down than Matt LaFleur not kicking the field goal.
Well, right, but I mean that's what a lot of people are going. Well, man, you put more faith in your defense than you do in Aaron Rodgers. Well, look at the 3 previous plays. Mm-hmm. And look at basically the entire second half. At that point, given what had happened,
sure.
Maybe you can make an argument, I think a pretty good argument, for putting a little more stock in your defense. Mm-hmm. Because again, even if you get the touchdown and the extra point, that's going to, and the 2-point, I should say, how long is that going to take? Right. 10, 12 seconds total? Mm-hmm. So then you're going to be kicking off, and Tampa Bay is going to have almost 2 minutes. You're going to have to get the stop, no matter what you do. So put the 3 points up, and then try and get the touchdown later for the win.
The other thing to think about this too is when Tampa Bay came out for that drive when they got the ball back. Excuse me. Most teams that are taking time off the clock, what are they doing?
Running the ball.
To Tampa.
No,
they threw the ball.
Yeah.
First down, he threw the ball. Brady threw the ball to Godwin, and then there was that pass, obviously, with the, all of the, the refs are, for Brady and the pulling, and
Well, you can see the ref
they were throwing
he did
passes.
not want to throw that flag, but
they had to.
It should have been a holding, not a pass interference.
It should have been holding. That was not pass interference.
I have a bigger problem with that than
actually. If you look
it came in very, very late, but
you look at the way the rules are. Yeah, if holding, I think technically you have to be holding. You have to grab the person. So I mean, whether it's holding or pass interference, it does make a little bit of a difference in where the ball's placed.
Right.
But you had to call. I mean,
You can see
what do you do in grabbing a jersey and holding on to it in that situation?
Right.
You're going to get caught.
Well, here's the thing.
Well,
now, it's wrong.
Excuse me, blatantly.
Right. As blatant as that was pretty damn blatant.
You know, with the arm extended and the jersey stretched.
He obviously did not watch the Lester Hayes masterclass.
Maybe he had some like stickum on his jersey, and
Daryl Green,
the guy's hand hit it, and he couldn't get it off. It's now stuck.
Daryl Green would never have gotten caught doing that.
But in any event, my point is, you set a precedent throughout the game, right? They were letting them play. There were no penalties in this damn game. There were no penalties all weekend. There was barely any penalties in either game. Okay,
John with the referees.
No. I'm just putting this out there. I don't. This is not the reason. Look, the Packers did not lose because of this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for the discussion of this, there was there was plenty on both sides, the Packers and the
because the league definitely doesn't want a franchise like Green Bay going to the Super Bowl because there's not and they're ugly non-marquee quarterback.
Not when it's against anyone else except Super Tom,
right?
Who, by the way, can some other human being on the planet have a little bit of Tom's mojo? Isn't there someone starving somewhere who deserves some of Tom Brady? I know he's worked hard and all that. But, I mean, geez, winning the first overtime Super Bowl, now he gets to be the first guy ever to play in a Super Bowl at home. He might go 70% wins in 10 Super Bowl. I mean, come on, enough piling in supermodel wife and all that. Enough already. Give somebody else some of that good stuff. This is why it's hard to believe in a God.
What deal did he make?
Yeah, I think maybe it's just the opposite. Maybe there's a deal with the devil, and it has nothing to do with it.
It's got to. Tom Cruise has to be involved.
I mean, it's like how much good can happen to one human being? You would think he would explode with
the magic underwear involved. I have no idea.
Maybe, I don't know.
Who knows? I look. Here's one thing I will say, and I do think the Chiefs will win. But if by some way, shape, or form, Tampa Bay wins and Brady wins yet another Super Bowl, he has to retire. He has to retire.
No. No. I think he can go for one more.
He won't.
Don't even Michael Jordan couldn't. The only person who ever ended on top, and he could barely run anymore, was Elway. And was he really? But he wasn't playing at the level that Brady's playing at right.
No. Hey,
that's both
Peyton Manning ended on top.
No, like I said, he wasn't. Peyton Manning was playing at like a Jeff Hostetler level
at that point
with a very good defense. And
he was being carried by some other members of his team.
Peyton Manning didn't play that whole season. He was taken out.
Yeah. That was what's his face? Oh, geez,
Osweiler.
Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler.
Hostetler, Osweiler. There's something about
Hostetler, Osweiler.
Something about those kind of
It's a new law firm in West Virginia.
Just take out Hall of Fame quarterbacks because put a guy's name.
My point being is that if you look at somebody like Drew Brees, granted he's been hurt, but I mean Brady. Brady's had a little bit of a drop in his accuracy and maybe some of his athleticism, but he's still just able. Yeah, but to do things that other quarterbacks. I think you're seeing the two best quarterbacks, and maybe this is the passing of the torch. But if Brady somehow why push it some more? Go sit on a beach with your supermodel wife and just go. What does he have to go out on top?
Nothing. What is he going to do? Just go mope around the house with his wife and kids? I mean, that's.
But at some point. If he sticks around too long, he's going to be Michael Jordan on the Wizards.
Please. Tom Brady is going to be in movies with Rob Gronkowski and Giselle.
I think Tom Brady's going to play till he's 45. He's going to win another Super Bowl in 2 years. He'll probably win this year. And then he'll retire because that's what he said. He wants to play till 45, and he'll go out on top.
He's 43 now, right?
He's 43. Yeah.
So 2 more years.
4 years.
All right.
And
especially if he doesn't win this one.
And then there was the other game. Kansas City's just too fast.
They're too good.
Kansas City was just.
I'll just say one thing.
Such a complete game they played on Sunday. It was,
Buffalo looked their age. They looked like a young, inexperienced team.
Yeah. Darren Allen was a little bit taken by the moment. Yeah. And right, that's the only thing. The only thing I'll say is, Buffalo, you can't kick those field goals.
No.
When you're down in the red zone, especially looking at what Kansas City did in the second quarter.
Finish the drives.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to go for the points. Yeah. But not that I think that would have meant that they win, but loosen up and go for it.
What is the spread of the Super Bowl? Is it
6.5? I don't know. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl next week a lot more, but I'll look at the.
Listen, if you're actually a betting person, if it's 6.5, I think Tampa Bay is a very, very attractive pick.
Well, the one thing I was going to say about that game, though, the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Bills, everybody was talking about. I heard somebody mention this the other day, and it actually does make sense. Everybody was talking about the fact that the Chiefs, they looked like they were bored.
They looked like it all year,
most of the season. Not this game, during the season, they looked like they were bored. But
I mean, the Raiders are going to ruin a perfect season.
Yeah. Yep. Basically, if it wasn't for that one game,
and they almost beat them twice. I mean, for some reason, the Raiders.
What poetic justice would that be for Brady? That if Mahomes had a perfect season going on right now, Brady comes in and stops it.
Right. Because if they hadn't lost that game to the Raiders, then what would they have done week 17? They probably would have played Mahomes.
I'm sure they would have played Mahomes
and gotten a win and had a perfect season. So
yeah, but then again, Mahomes goes out in the divisional round, and Chad Henne comes in, but he was entrusted with a lot of those plays because he did play that entire Week 17 game.
Right.
He hadn't been sitting on the bench the whole season doing nothing.
Right. Yeah, so, he had a bit of a warm up.
Exactly.
But that would be a great storyline if they were undefeated and looking to do what no one else had done, including Tom Brady in 2007, which is win every game all season and shut those freaking Dolphins up once and for all.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. the asterisk with the Dolphins is always the 14-game season and the fact that they played out of any Super Bowl champion team, they played the easiest schedule ever. I mean, I think they only played 2 teams with a winning record that whole year.
Yeah, but that's not their fault.
No, it's not. But
yeah,
It
looks like they
didn't lose to the Chargers in Week 15 either.
It looks like the Bucs are a 3.5 point underdog right now.
3.5.
3.5.
Part of me thinks Kansas City is just about ready to finally say, okay, let's play a complete game.
And they pretty much did this past Sunday too. But
although they started out with a couple turnovers and
a little slow. Yeah, Bills were up 9-0 in the beginning in the first quarter.
It could have been 14-0.
Yeah, but again, that was kind of a turnovers happened, but that was kind of a fluky play.
And I think that's the
ball.
I think Tampa Bay's got to play almost a perfect game, and I think Kansas City's going to have to turn the ball over at least 2 to 3 times with points coming out of it for Tampa Bay to have a chance at this.
Well, I really do. And do we really believe that this Kansas City team, despite their having close games during the regular season, is not as capable as coming from behind as last year's team was?
They don't seem to have the chemistry that last year's team did. They're as good, sure. It's almost the same team. But there's something there. I'm not quite sure what it is. It could have been, some of the different personnel, the lack of a preseason. I don't know what it is. But they just seem at times to not be clicking as that team last year was just on. It was a 12-cylinder, and they were clicking on all 12 cylinders.
Yeah.
And
is this a better Tampa Bay defense than they will have faced?
Yeah, probably. But I would say the one thing in Kansas City's defense is I think their defense is better this year.
Yeah, sure.
And
Let's save some of this stuff to talk about next week when we get into a long, lengthy Super Bowl discussion. One thing I want to point out too, I'll ask both of you. Obviously, the Bucs are the first team now to play the Super Bowl in their home stadium. But Brady becomes the 4th quarterback in NFL history to take 2 different teams to the Super Bowl. Remember the other 3?
2 different teams.
2 different teams
to the Super Bowl. Okay.
Silence.
I'm trying to think.
The thought.
Jim Plunkett?
No. We just mentioned one not too long ago, and you should know that one, Harry.
I should know that one?
Yeah, well, we just talked about the game where, Hostetler, Osweiler.
Oh, yeah, Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning.
Oh, okay.
And who are the other two? I could just tell you if you want to, unless you want to actually
give me a hint. NFC or AFC? Were both teams in the NFC?
Both teams, both quarterbacks were quarterbacks of NFC teams.
And they played for NFC teams both times?
Both times.
And they were starters both times.
Starting quarterbacks for both teams, both times in all the Super Bowls.
Brady, Manning, and two others.
Mm-hmm. Brady, Manning, and two others.
You might as well just tell us. I don't know. We have time. We're only at 55 minutes.
No, really. Well, I'll give you a hint. Both of these quarterbacks quarterbacked for three teams. All right. They took their first team and their third teams to the Super Bowls, not their second team. And both of their second teams was the same team.
Say the last part again.
The second team that they both played for that they did not take to the Super Bowl, both of those teams was the same NFL team. So they both played for the same NFL team as that second team. No.
The one that comes to mind, well, yeah, I guess with the Rams, did Kurt Warner take two teams?
Kurt Warner took two teams to the Super Bowl. Yes, he took the Rams and he took the Cardinals to the Super Bowl.
I didn't realize the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl.
Cardinals lost to the Steelers.
That's right, the Arizona
Cardinals. Yeah.
And then the other one is probably somebody old school that I'm not thinking of.
Well, maybe you'll think of it if you figure out who the second team that Kurt Warner played for was.
The Giants?
That would be correct.
Who took the Giants to a Super Bowl?
Nobody took the Giants to a Super Bowl. The other gentleman played for the Giants as the second team.
Oh, Craig Morton.
There you go. Craig Morton took the Cowboys and the Broncos to the Super Bowl.
But so one was an AFC team, the other one was an NFC team.
That's an interesting list. Brady, Manning, Kurt Warner, and
Craig Morton.
Is that the ranking for greatness?
Pretty much.
Craig Morton sort of.
I'm not saying Morton was a slouch or anything, but
no.
Craig Morton was
pretty good company then.
Craig Morton was a good.
Craig Morton probably had better stats in his second Super Bowl than Peyton Manning did.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, for sure.
So did I.
And
so did you on that same day.
And on that same day, well, for the same team, but not on the same day. But yeah, no. Manning, that was, and I've said it before on an earlier podcast. Craig Morton was booed off the field his last game as a Giant, got traded to Denver, and took Denver to the Super Bowl the next year.
Yeah.
So,
Kurt Warner is one of those guys who. What a weird dude, but he had a couple of years there where he was just the magic man.
Well, he was decent for the Giants and enter Eli Manning. So I mean that wasn't obviously going anywhere.
And then he went to the Super Bowl after that.
Then he left the Giants and went out to Arizona and went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, but anywho, all right. Well, there you go. There's our our quiz for the day. So all right. Well. We have no beaten by the coin today, folks.
No games, no picks.
No games, no picks. We have one game left to pick for this particular thing. I mean, we'll probably bring it back during baseball season at that point, but to some degree anyway. But we'll do our final pick for the Super Bowl next
Wednesdays in baseball.
We'll do Wednesdays in baseball.
Full slate.
We'll do a full slate. We'll pick every single team, every single game. All
that happens on a Wednesday.
It's a separate podcast. It's a 3-hour podcast just for the picks.
Going it, RadioPete is 612 and 413.
We're gonna pick 1,000 games each this season.
Great. Oh, I tell you, that'd be great. You gotta love it. So
because there's nothing like staying glued to your television for that
game
that Wednesday afternoon Chicago Cubs Cleveland Indians game.
Cleveland baseball team.
Cleveland baseball team.
Get it straight, yeah. So, but in any event, no, we'll figure something out. But we'll do our last NFL pick for Beaten by the Coin next Wednesday's show.
You can go to the website, by the way, and check out all the results up to this moment.
Everything all the way up to this moment.
Big reveal next week.
www.logroom.com. Click on the blog. Go to Beaten by the Coin, and check it all out. All right. Well, that brings us to. I guess we might as well bring ourselves up to our top 10 list this week. What do you think, guys?
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah.
This week, our top 10 list this week is top 10 teams in NFL history. Top 10 teams in NFL history. I will start it off with the 66 Packers. 66 Packers.
Sounds like a car.
That would be a 36 Packer, I think.
36,
yeah. Let me throw up a picture here. There you go. The 66 Packers, 66 Green Bay Packers.
The first Packer team in color.
The first Packer team coming to you live in Technicolor. They went 12-2 in the regular season, and they were Super Bowl champs. But the interesting thing about it, Coach Vince Lombardi and his team, they were more worried about winning the NFL championship, and which of course they did that year, than they were about winning some glorified exhibition publicity stunt against the champion of the freshly invented AFL junior circuit, so to speak. But it definitely did kick off, something that has changed, football for, the better for the last 55 years. And on obviously way into the future. So they're definitely they were a team. They rolled over most of their opponents that year. I mean, Bart Starr, Forrest Gregg, Ray Nitschke. They won 56-3 and 31-7. In 2 games, and they didn't even break a sweat. The team, they just kind of rolled over.
They broke some noses, but
they didn't break a sweat. So there you go. This 1966 Packers are our number 10 team. Harry, why don't you bring us to number 9?
Number 9 is 30 years later, the 1996 Green Bay Packers.
There you go.
It's this was a team I didn't want to like, but they were darn good. And you could tell that probably his best year. They were the last team or during the salary cap era to score the most points and hold the opposing teams to the lowest point total that year. And they sort of rolled over everybody. What were they? 13-3. They won the divisional playoffs against the 49ers 35-14. They beat the Panthers 30-13 and then won the Super Bowl against the Patriots 35-21. It's just one of those teams that they were really dominant, and they had a chance to it was back-to-back, right?
Back-to-back, yeah. Second,
and I felt like they blew it. But interesting fact, the 3 quarterbacks on this team, obviously Brett Favre was the starter, Jim McMahon and Doug Peterson. Yes, that Doug Peterson were the other 2 quarterbacks on this team. But it was Mike Holmgren's first real big, coming out party to the world, and they were really dominant. I mean, they lost 3 games towards the end of the year. And through the playoffs, they just dominated. Yeah. And some people have them listed as high as 5th or 6th as far as all time teams, but they come in a healthy number 9 on ours.
Number 9, the 1996 Green Bay Packers. Radio Pete, bring us to number 8, please.
Number 8. One of my favorite teams, the 92 Dallas Cowboys. How about them boys? 13-3 and a big Super Bowl win. This, of course, the Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones era when it worked, and even then it was contentious. But basically, they were great on offense, 4th in the league in total yards, and 1st in the league in fewest yards allowed on defense. This was just an all-star cast. Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, the playmaker Michael Irvin, Jay Novacek, Daryl Johnson, who I believe actually ended up playing on the defensive line late in the Super Bowl because it was such a rout, and they just.
Hey, Coach, let me do something else. Do I want to have fun?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was I forget who he went in for, but look, they beat up on a lot of teams during the regular season, crushed the Eagles, and in one of the great moments for Cowboys fans, beating Steve Young and the 49ers. And then, of course, one of the most lopsided Super Bowls was beating up on the Bills, 52-17. So this was just a dominant team and kind of set the standard for, again, they were part of what Dallas was known for, which is a great offensive line. And they had enough and perhaps too much of everything, both offensively and defensively. And they were, I think Smith was the leading rusher in the league that year as well. So plenty of all-stars, plenty of great coaching from Jimmy Johnson, and a big time Super Bowl win. I don't know if that's the most lopsided score in history. Maybe.
What's that?
It's one of them.
52-17.
Wasn't there was a 55-10 Super Bowl, I believe.
I think. Yeah. So what's this? How many points did they win by?
52-17, so that would be 35.
35.
Yeah. No, we'll be getting to somebody who won by one more than that, 36 in the Super Bowl.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, 92 Dallas Cowboys.
1992 Dallas Cowboys. I will take number 7. Number 7 is the year before, the 1991 Washington Redskins. And yes, I will say that because at the time they were actually the Redskins. 1991 Redskins, folks. Most of the original Hogs had long been replaced since then. But the theme of the season was pretty much the same. They started out the season by the first 5 games. They shut out 3 opponents in their first 5 games. They shut out 3 opponents by 102-0 between those 3 games, and they cruised to the playoffs to the Super Bowl, outscoring everybody 101-41. And the odd thing was it was just a really jam-packed NFC East at the time. The Giants had won that Super Bowl 25 the year before, going 13-3, and then the Cowboys won the next 2 Super Bowls after this, and the Redskins slotted right in here. This was a really, really tough team. Mark Rippon at quarterback, Ernest Biner, Brian Mitchell, Gary Clark, Jim Lackey, just a lot of big names, and they just had their way with a lot of opponents this year.
Darryl Green.
There you go. Number 7, the 1991 Redskins, Washington Redskins. Harry, why don't you bring us to number 6?
Number 6 is number 1 on my list of most annoying teams of all time. The 1985 Chicago Bears, who, let's looking at this now with some fresh eyes, they were pretty damn impressive.
How's that for picture?
They were 15-1, even though they did this annoying Super Bowl shuffle. And we all got sick of watching William Perry belly flop into the end zone. But they were dominant. I mean, they went on in the playoffs. They went 15-1, only losing to the Dolphins on Monday Night Football to deny a perfect season, which I guess was somewhat, poetic. But they beat the Giants 21-0 in the divisional playoffs. They won the NFC Championship game 24-0, and they won the Super Bowl 46-10. They had 11 AP All-Pros, including McMahon, Walter Payton, Jimbo Covert, Jay Hildenberg, Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael, Richard Dent, Otis Wilson, Mike Singletary. The list goes on. Quite honestly, some people would argue that this was maybe the best defensive team of all time. And I'll tell you what, their front 7, there's a pretty darn good argument for that. But they were a fun team to watch, obviously, with Ditka and McMahon, and it was a cast of characters. Finally winning one, although I think he took a little bit of a back seat during all this. Finally winning a Super Bowl for Walter Payton. but they dominated. I mean, they were just simply dominant, and I think they only allowed 198 points the entire season, which is like 12 points a game or something like that. It was pretty impressive, even though at the time they were annoying as all get up.
Yeah, they were a dominant team. You're right. You think, oh yeah, the 40-60 and all that, right? But you go back and you look at the numbers and you see in every aspect of the game, they just crushed people, and they had personalities too.
They gave up 10 points in the entire postseason.
Yeah,
I mean, when was the last time you saw a team have 2 shutouts in a postseason? I mean, it's crazy.
Unbelievable.
And fortunately, this Super Bowl video craze didn't last for very long. But
no, it didn't last long at all.
No,
I think the Pats made one too.
The flamboyant NFL players looking for attention has completely disappeared.
It was
they didn't start anything.
Yeah, it doesn't. Nobody does anything anymore.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying they
actual
don't do
MTV
that
video.
anymore.
They don't do that anymore. No. Well, they did that, and I think there was a video the following year, but it wasn't even the Giants. Kool and the Gang actually put out a video for the Giants, and they changed one of their songs into a Giants.
Look, the Super Bowl shuffle was better than the Patriots video. We'll win the game with Coach Ray Berry. It's just horrible.
Yeah, maybe no more videos for football teams.
How about that?
And then the Mets with their horrible.
Oh God!
Right? That was a low moment amongst low moments.
There you go.
Yeah.
So thankfully that craze has died out.
This is true.
Plenty of other ways to get media. Thank God we have crazy amounts of extra media now.
There's a direct relationship to cocaine consumption and shitty videos in sports. It tracks just right next to each other.
Well, the first time we ever saw, my friends and I saw that
correlation
video,
is just.
My friend Pete Lair, whoever it is, plays the saxophone, and he goes, those guys might be playing those instruments.
Might be.
Yeah, maybe.
They might be. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, that would be the 1985 Bears.
Them Bears.
A
lot of people have the Bears second.
Yeah.
Some people have it first on their list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of those lists originate in Chicago.
Yeah, they do. They originate and end in Chicago.
but hey, they're on our top 10, so we give them kudos.
That's right. Their top team was the 85 Bears, and the next 4 were the Bulls teams from the 90s.
Right. The next 4 best football teams were the Bulls teams in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then the Cubs from a few years ago.
Number 10 was the GOAT from the Cubs. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. There you go. Anyway, all right. Number 6, the 1985 Bears. Radio Pete, bring us to number 5, please.
All right. Well, as much joy as I had talking about the Cowboys, I now have to talk about the 84 San Francisco 49ers, 15-1 and Super Bowl champions. You know what? It doesn't matter who you're a fan of. You have to give props to this team, which was pretty high on a lot of the lists. That
I feel like we could have had 4 or 5 49ers teams on this.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is the epitome of the West Coast offense. Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Montana, of course, Dwight Clark, and Roger Craig,
Simon LeBon,
Freddie Solomon. Look, and a great defense as well. Right,
yeah.
Ronnie Lott, Dwight Hicks, 25 interceptions against 14 touchdowns, trying to keep up with Joe Montana. Right. That's what opposing quarterbacks do.
And they played at Candlestick Park.
Yeah, so you could say there were better teams that the 49ers put out there than this one in the 1980s, but I don't know. I mean, it was almost as much of a foregone conclusion. And this was also the George Seifert team, right? So this was Bill Walsh's team that George Seifert won with. But Roger Craig had his best year ever, 1,200 yards.
Yeah, Seifert had a couple years where it was just a continuation of what Walsh created.
Yeah, I mean he didn't exactly Switzer it by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
He had some of his own ideas, and listen, when you go 15-1, you're goddamn good, plain and simple.
This is true. Yeah, you are. Absolutely are. And oddly enough, the last team on our list was 15-1 in the regular season too. So,
yeah. It's not an easy thing to do.
Not an easy thing to do. No, not at all. There you go. The number 5, the 1984 San Francisco 49ers. I will take number 4. Number 4 is our only undefeated team on this list. In fact, it's the only undefeated team ever, unless you count regular season, but we're not. So that would be the 1972 Miami Dolphins. I'll throw that picture up right there. There you go. There's a picture for the ages right there.
Larry Zonka's helmet looked like he kept wearing it since like grammar school, and his it looks like he couldn't get that off. It didn't even look. His face mask doesn't even cover his chin.
No,
his chin is sticking out below his face mask.
The face mask. Yeah, absolutely.
With that U horn on. Oh my God!
What's odd though is the helmet looks like it's too small, but yet the brim of the helmet is coming down over half of his eyes.
Yeah.
It's like they couldn't get it on, and then they whacked it with a sledge.
Yeah,
it went down a little bit too far, and then it's not coming off.
These guys never really complain that there's not enough air in my helmet, or I need it's the wrong fit.
My chin strap is rubbing me a little bit.
Who is the guy in the NFL who wouldn't play because he didn't get the right helmet?
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown. Yeah. Yeah. Here you go. Larry Zonka has something to say about your helmet, Antonio.
Yeah,
Brown.
Exactly.
By the way, just as a quick note, well, you know what? I'll mention it with our next team.
Okay.
Next team that I do.
Next team that you do. Yeah, no worries.
Interesting note about Antonio Brown.
Well, the 1972 Miami Dolphins. That's pretty much it. We just talked about Larry Zonka. They went 12-0 in the regular season, and
they beat Clemson in the Super Bowl.
14-0, pardon me, 14-0 in the regular season, and then they all the way through the Super Bowl, and they beat Washington. They beat the Redskins in the Super Bowl to finish 17-0. But what's odd about that is, think about this: Bob Greasy was the quarterback at the start of the season. In Week 5 against the Chargers, Ron East and Deacon Jones sacked Bob Greasy and broke his ankle.
Yeah.
And he was replaced by Earl Morrall for the rest of the season. And Greasy came back to the field as a substitute in the final regular season game against the Colts, and then relieved Morrall for the second half of the AFC Championship game versus the Steelers, and then started the Super Bowl. And he had a broken ankle in Week 5, and he started in the Super Bowl. And with 2 different quarterbacks, they went undefeated that year.
Well, Larry Zonka taped up his ankle for him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris. Mercury Morris is sitting to Zonka's left
he was
in that picture.
Pretty darn good.
They both rushed for over 1,000 yards.
Well, yeah. I mean, when we talk about Bob Greasy was a quarterback, I think his average pass attempts were probably 12.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but their average score that year per game was like 27.5 points, but they were just an amazing complete team. That's Jim Kick, by the way, in the picture too, with Zonka and Morris.
Yeah,
in case we're wondering,
they had a pretty good backfield, and they always had 2 backs back then. This is when they were still playing with the traditional fullback and halfback, and sometimes with a wing back as well as a fullback and a halfback. Yeah. So they ran the ball pretty well.
Zonka was a fullback.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that was what they was their backfield, and
they had a great offensive line too.
Yep, and a pretty good defense too.
Yeah.
I don't know. They did something that no one else had done, and no one else has done since, and that has to count for something. And again, the fact that they did it without a plethora of superstars, you might count that against them being a great team. I kind of think that gives them a little bit of extra credence.
Yeah,
they were doing it without a whole lot of big names.
And it seems like anytime anybody comes close, they just don't do it. And so there's some weird karma going on there.
Yeah, there's something about, I don't know. Now, maybe because no one had ever done it before,
right,
and they weren't. I don't know how much it weighs upon any team that's gone 15-1, or talk about the 07 Pats who got all the way to the Super Bowl and then lost. So I don't know. Maybe the pressure. I don't think it weighs that much, but still,
just hard to do.
Something. Yeah, it's really hard to do. So got to give them props.
Give him props for that. There you go. Number 4, the 1972 Miami Dolphins. All right. Harry, bring us to number 3, please.
Number 3 is the 1989 San Francisco 49ers, the first year under new head coach George Seifert. They went 14-2 in the regular season, and quite honestly, probably Joe Montana's greatest year passing. He set a then NFL record with a passer rating of 112.4, completion percentage of 70.2%, and through 26 touchdowns with only 8 interceptions. They won 41-13, 30-3, and 55-10 in the playoffs. And they were, I mean, obviously Joe Montana, Roger Craig, Jerry Rice, John Taylor, a lot of the same guys that we were still talking about with the previous team. I mean, I think their second team could beat other teams. They were really dominant, and they were one of those teams that had an incredible offense that I think most people know it for, especially with Montana to Rice and Taylor. But their defense was really good as well, and this was an organization that Eddie DeBartolo built that obviously went through Bill Walsh, was taken over by George Seifert, and when you have guys like Sherm Lewis and Mike Holmgren and coming out of the system, you know that this was just a great team. But they were pretty darn good. And they were, you think about it, the 49ers were dominant for like 6, 7, 8 years in a row. It seemed like they were just that good of a team. And
I mean, overall, I mean, they were dominant right through the Super Bowl. They won in 94, in 1985, the 94 season against the Chargers, and that started back in the early 80s. So I mean, you could say 15 years, 14, 15 years. They were pretty much in the mix all the time. So crazy, yeah. Well, there you go. Number 3, the 1989 San Francisco 49ers. Radio Pete, bring us to number 2, please.
All right. Well, listen, I guess we're making up for all those weeks when you arranged things so I could talk about the Cowboys. Because you did give me that this week as well. But now I have to talk not only about the Cowboys, but the 49ers, and now to talk about the worst nemesis in the world, the Steelers.
There you go.
And the 78 Steelers. And it really, listen, as far as this list goes,
there could be 5 Steelers teams.
There could be a couple of 1970 whatever Steelers teams.
73 to 79.
Yeah, exactly.
We could probably between the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, we could probably list 30 top 10 teams.
Yeah,
so.
And probably 9 of them would be Steelers teams.
Yeah.
So, but this was the 78 Steelers, 14-2 in the regular season, Super Bowl champions. What can you say? Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Swan and Stallworth, the Steel Curtain defense. Mm-hmm. This was a team for the ages, amongst Steeler teams for the ages. Mel Blount as well. Swan and Stallworth, 20 touchdown receptions, which you think, that doesn't seem that much. But back then, that was a lot. I don't know. What are you going to say? I forget who they beat to go to the Super Bowl, but it was their 3rd Super Bowl, and they became the first team to win 3 Super Bowls. Although for the life of me, I can't remember who it was against. But the 78 Steelers.
Well, they started to get known more for their offense by this point. Like their offense, people always say, "Oh, Bradshaw didn't do much." This, I believe, it was the 78 team that they wound up putting up some pretty big numbers.
Yeah,
their defense was still good, but they weren't relying completely on the Steel Curtain. They were a machine.
Yeah, they were. Silent. You got nothing else to say about them.
I have nothing further to say about them.
Nothing further to say about them. I'm just trying to tell you. I'm just trying to look for something for you, but it's not a big deal. We can let it go. Well, you know what? It just all of these Steelers teams. Seriously, the Steelers won the 4 Super Bowls they won in the 70s. They beat the Cowboys twice. They beat the Vikings, and they beat the Rams. The Rams, I think, was the 70 the next year. They beat them in 80. So they would have beaten in 78. They would have beaten the Cowboys. they beat the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I think he knew that, John.
What?
I think he knew that.
I know he knew that. I'm just trying to bust his chops.
He's just completing the pile on.
I'm completing the pile.
Rabbit.
But it goes back to my point. I think I mentioned this, maybe before we were on the air. This era of the Cowboys and Steelers reminded me of the 80s Lakers and Celtics. It was, you look at those Cowboys teams and those Steelers teams, and they were incredible.
Yeah.
They only played each other twice in the Super Bowl, but it felt like more. It just felt like every year those two teams were just
look at
dominating each division.
Look at the 71 Cowboys, the 72 Cowboys, the 77 Cowboys, and basically any Steelers team in the 70s.
Yeah.
But with
from like 73, 74 on,
yeah, dominant teams.
Yeah,
it's kind of surprising they didn't play more.
It was the
didn't meet the Super Bowl more times.
The AFC was, pretty much, with the exception of like the Broncos one year, and that the AFC was pretty much just the decade of the Dolphins, the Raiders, and the Steelers.
Yeah,
and the NFC was the Cowboys, Cowboys and the Vikings. With a Super Bowl here and there from other teams. But it was they were dominant. Yeah, between the two of them, they were in the most. So, but yeah, well, yes, I was always busting your chops about the Cowboys.
Yeah, of course, I knew someone would bring it up. I just didn't want to. I just couldn't bring myself to say.
Couldn't bring yourself to say it. So, no worries. Well, there you go. The number 2, the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll take number 1. Number 1 would be our number 1. I think it was on a couple of lists. It was my number 1, it was Pete's number 1, and it was Harry's number 2, which makes it number 1 on this list, the 1962 Green Bay Packers. There they are. It's our only black and white picture for this one right here. And they also have the distinction. Is that a phrase? Distinction?
It is now.
It is now. Of being the only team on this list prior to the Super Bowl era. Every other team, including the 66 Packers, played in the Super Bowl. There was no Super Bowl prior to the 66 Packers. So, anyway, the 62 Green Bay Packers, 13-1 in the regular season under Coach Vince Lombardi. They ended the season by defeating the Giants 16-7 in the NFL championship game. The Giants racked up a large amount of yardage on that, but the 291 yards. But the Packers defense held the Giants offense scoreless. The 7 points the Giants scored was a return block punt. So they were just a fierce team. All pro, a couple all pro linebackers, Dan Curry and Bill Forrester. Green Bay gave up just under 11 points, 10.8 points per game, shutting out opponents 3 times. They held the opposing quarterbacks to a 43.5 rating. It's just an amazing team this year.
Nietzsche and Herb Adderley, who I think
Herb Adderley, yeah.
Adderley was on one of our other lists, right?
Herb Adderley was on it. Ray Nitschke.
Herb Albert.
Safety Willie Wood.
Herb Albert.
Do you go back to that picture though that you had up?
Yeah.
I could tell you from that picture, number 63 has just got lolly-lipped and he's going in the wrong direction. 71 just pushed 63 and back.
I think he forgot what the play was, so he was turning around to see what was happening.
He was turning around to get the handoff.
Yeah.
He reported eligible.
He's going to tackle Bart Starr.
I think they're running left. No, they're going right. My mistake.
That's what you call getting your bell rung.
Bart Starr had to hand the ball off to him. That was what the play was, but Starr forgot. So, and just as an aside too, we'll finish this up too. As an aside, there, 3 teams or three quarterbacks, I should say, were on 2 different teams on this list. That would be Bart Starr on the 62 and 66 Packers. That would be Joe Montana, of course, on the 84 and 89 49ers, and Jim McMahon on the 85 Bears and the 96 Packers.
There we go.
I didn't say started. I said on the list.
He was Brett Favre's spiritual advisor.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading right here. 50 turnovers.
Yeah.
Packers forced, and that was in a 14-game season in 1962.
Yeah,
and 175 rushing yards per game. That's
175.7 rushing yards per game. They won 49-0 as final scores twice that year.
And each player made $39 a game.
In one of the 49-0 shutouts that year, they outgained the Eagles 628 yards to 54 yards.
Yeah.
So, insane. Just ridiculous.
That is the damn Packers. Too many Packers on this list.
Yeah,
Come on. What?
Well,
how about the 70? How about the 80? What was it? The 78 Giants. Come on.
The 78 Giants. Yeah, 78 Giants and the fumble.
I almost put the 86 Giants on this team.
I almost
on this list, rather.
Yeah, you know what? People forget the Giants. That '86 Giants team had a great Super Bowl, but they were much like the '90s Giants team. They won ugly.
Yeah. They did. They won ugly.
Won ugly. Yeah. I mean, I love it. That's Giants football.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, they when you look at like just some, they didn't. It was defense and kind of a sloppy offense that just barely got through some games. But yeah, but they had an immaculate Super Bowl.
Yeah, yes, they did. They definitely did.
I like to remind my Broncos friends about the 86.
About the 86, the 86 Giants. Yeah. And you mentioned the 78 Giants. Larry Zonka was actually on the 78 Giants as well.
Well, yes, I remember.
So,
there were many things thrown at television screens that one day.
Absolutely. So there you go. Number one, the 1962 Green Bay Packers. All right. Well, that is our top 10 list for this week
in record time. By the way,
record time.
What was the most current band on that list? Or current
Primus
team? Yes, top 10.
The most current would be the '96 Packers.
Yeah.
96 Packers.
You can tell we're old.
Team. Yeah, 25-year-old team was the most current on that one. So, but hey.
I think the 99 Rams got close. I think maybe the 2016 Packers got close. Or Patriots got close.
Yeah. And then you could make a case for the 07 Pats, too, even though they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, they went undefeated except for that last game, and they were punishing teams the whole season. So,
They were.
But not good enough to make our list.
Not good enough to make our list. If we went to 15, a few of those teams we just mentioned would have definitely been on there. So.
Yeah,
and of course,
we might have a team this year that winds up on there.
We might have a team this year that winds up on a future top 10 teams too. And a shout out to the 76 Raiders too, because I know Pete wanted to get the Raiders to Oakland on the list there.
Yeah,
that would have been fun to do.
That was a fun team and some great players and
exactly.
Oh,
the characters, just the characters.
Yeah. I mean that was as much for their play. For the characters, but for their play with that team. Although they were a pretty darn good team.
They were a damn good team, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, that brings us to this week's Old Balls. Old Balls. Harry, tell us who this week's Old Balls is.
You know, breaking out a little bit to separate it from our top 10 list, I just had to make mention of Mr. Henry Louis Aaron, Hammer and Hank, who left us this past week, and it's amazing. Hank Aaron, I think, gets lost in the mix of when we talk about not only the greatest baseball players of all time, but just the greatest athletes of all time. And there's a good argument to be made that he maybe was the best baseball player of all time. And what he had to go through in breaking the color barrier, what he had to deal with being an African-American baseball player breaking into the major leagues at the time he did, and his accomplishments both on and off the field are, I think they're immeasurable. I think he has to be thought of as, top 10 athletes of all time. And there could be an argument that he could be in the top 2 or 3 on that list.
Sure.
He was a 25-time All-Star. He had a career 305 batting average. He held the record for home runs, and I'll tell you what, I still think he does. He had over 3,771 hits, and he batted in 2,297 runs, which is still the major league record, and wound up being able to bring a Milwaukee Braves team a World Series championship against the Yankees. And he was obviously around and was playing before I remember. He was a little bit before our time, but I think when he broke Babe Ruth's record for home runs, it was one of those events when you just look at it and watch the film of it, the entire country was cheering for him during that time. It was just one of those hits and one of those moments in sports that I think is just unbelievable. And it's not much more you could say about it. I mean, he's just a class act, and what he did for as long as he did is, I think it's unmatched. I really do. And I mean, he played from 55 to 75. Yeah. And, played the designated hitter for a few of his last years, but it wasn't like he did this for 6 years and just had great numbers. He did it for a really, really long time. And, one of the best ever, and rest in greatness there, Mr. Hank Aaron. This week's old balls.
Rest in peace.
The only thing that I would have any contention with is that not everyone in the country was cheering for him.
Well, true. I mean, it was still I mean, I think anybody who. What I meant by that is that it meant more than just a record. It was about equality. It was about sort of showing that this for a lot of people who were not getting their fair share and still today don't get their fair share in society. Right. That hit meant a lot more than anything else. Watching a black man round the bases beating a record that was,
sacrosanct.
Yeah, I mean, it was just
would never ever be broken. Yeah,
was an incredible accomplishment, and considering the fact that he, some of his earlier years, his better years, he wasn't even able to play in the major leagues.
Sure,
and you're absolutely right. I mean, I think
anyone who was a baseball fan or even a casual baseball fan who basically wasn't a bigot or a racist, I think was that was an important play, and they were cheering that day. But he did have to deal with a little bit of that.
Oh, he dealt with a lot of it, and
after the fact. And I mean, that's part of, I think, the testament to his greatness is that if there was bitterness and resentment, he kept it well hidden, and I don't think it. I don't know. I can't say, but he certainly didn't come out in public and start condemning people. And
right,
no, so I mean, he's to me, and I think a lot of other people, he's the true home run king.
I was going to say, speaking of, you mentioned a record that was sacrosanct that he broke. I mean, would you consider his sacrosanct? And how do you feel about Bonds?
Bonds took drugs and enhanced his performance. Although I will say this about the both of them, and Bonds, did admit this, and to his credit, he said if you just play long enough, you're going to put up some numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not why Hammer and Hank was the home run king. It wasn't just that he played for a long time and put up numbers. But I don't consider Bonds to be the legitimate home run record.
I don't either.
The sad thing about Barry Bonds too is that he didn't need to. He was
he was a great player without it.
Such a talent.
It might have taken him another season or two.
He may have never had the home run record, but he may have gone down as a better ball player.
Sure.
He reminded me a lot of Reggie Jackson with more talent actually, because he started out as this really great outfielder who was, kind of long and lanky and was just, the talk of the league. And then all of a sudden he just became enormous. Mm-hmm. And obviously that year he had was great, tainted obviously by steroids. Although, I think that deserves a deeper conversation, because I think there's other players whose career has been tarnished by steroids, which I think they were using them in a different way. I think they were using them to recover from injuries quicker, and not necessarily to build 80 pounds of muscle.
Right.
And the ball was different during that era, obviously, again with the Sosa and McGuire years. But regardless of records are meant to be broken. Sure. I think when Bonds beat Hank Aaron's record, it was not nearly the moment in American culture than it was when
Aaron broke.
Yeah, when Aaron broke.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And look,
not recognized as legitimate for
Lou
a lot of different reasons.
There are 5 or 6 moments in baseball that I think that go beyond sports, that capture a moment in our collective culture, and I think that was one of them. And he was really prolific. I mean, yes, if you're around long enough, but if you're around long enough, you don't hit 305 as a career average. You don't make 25 All-Star teams. You don't have the most runs batted in and the most home runs of all time. Especially with missing a couple of his younger years and maybe his prime years by not being able to break into the major leagues. Yeah. So he was unbelievable. I mean, when you really look back at what he was able to do, he's on that Mount Rushmore of baseball, whether it's Ruth or Willie Mays, Stan Musial, DiMaggio, whatever the case might be, he's right there. And there's an argument I think that could be made that for what he had to go through and what he did, I think there's an argument that maybe he should be in the discussion for the greatest baseball player of all time.
Mount Rushmore and now Old Balls.
Which,
posthumously, of course, but still, you got to figure the family and the estate are,
you're in rare company.
Swollen chest with pride right now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the pride of the Indianapolis Clowns.
Home run king and Old Balls recipient. It doesn't get any better than that.
No. Well, Barry Bonds isn't an Old Balls recipient.
No, he's not.
And he won't be. Because he has no balls left after taking all steroids.
We'll do a shrivel ball segment.
Small ball segment, maybe.
Well, we might have to have top 10 steroid users of all time.
Small balls. I can hear the sounder for that one now.
We'll work on the sounder.
So. I feel like there's a Mike Tyson voice in there somewhere. Hank Aaron, rest in peace there, buddy.
Rest in peace, Hank Aaron.
Thank you, Hank. Thank you for everything you did.
Absolutely. All right.
That wraps it up, right? Oh, no,
there's some other stuff, yeah.
Some baseball or something?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, let's talk about, we talked about Hank Aaron, so let's move on to some hot stove baseball. There's a few things going on.
Before that, quick note before we get there.
You got it.
For some reason...
Should I turn the crawl off, or...?
No, for some reason, the Nets and the Hawks are always playing when we're on the air, so 2.5 minutes left. Yeah, 2.5 minutes left in the third, and Atlanta is ahead 83-79. So it's another barn burner.
Another barn burner.
The Nets are actually playing a little bit of defense.
Very little.
When we get to NBA, double check on the score, and we'll
I wanted to mention it because it's only the third quarter.
It's only the third.
Kevin Durant and James Harden are look like they're trying out for bullfighting position.
So anyway, well. MLB, some hot stove. Let's just a couple things going on in the Mets. I mean, what do you think of the George Springer ordeal? How it went down? Him going to the Jays.
It's fine. Look, the Blue Jays are making a bid, right? They want to get somewhere.
Did you see his press conference? I think it was today or yesterday or whatever. He basically came out and said that he did not want to play in New York.
Oh, okay.
Why make the announcement? I want to play close to home in Connecticut, or why be? I mean, if that was the case, why be involved in it?
Is that he didn't want to play in New York for the Mets, or I don't want to be in New York at all?
I didn't watch the presser. I read a couple of articles based on the presser, so it was other takes. So it was third, fourth hand, but
Yankees are still going to have to deal with them.
So and the Yankees will still have to deal with it.
Look, the big thing is it real? Are the Mets really gonna they tendered an offer to Bauer, it sounds like. And if they get Bauer, then I think it's a really successful offseason for the Mets.
Yeah, if they get Bauer.
And it's also good because the Blue Jays are probably going to be a little bit less likely to give Bauer.
They're going after him.
Yeah, they are. But now
they're going after it.
Springer and Bauer, and those are who do they?
The Yankees are going to offer Bauer a contract, but he hadn't had a season career-ending injury in the last 2 years, so they
pulled that offer back.
And they're only giving out 1-year deals this year.
1-year deals, except DJ LeMahieu.
Speaking of 1-year deals, the Mets actually just today they signed a 1-year contract with Aaron Loop.
Aaron Loop, lefty,
Aaron Loop.
Good for him.
From the they got him from the well.
All right, so I think this bodes well for the Mets.
Yeah, so they got another lefty in the bullpen.
Looks like Realmuto's going to who did I see?
Realmuto he's
staying in Philly, right?
He's staying in Philly. Yeah, they offered him a $97 billion a year contract, with an option for an additional $300 trillion. To stay in. Where does Philly get all this money? I mean, they have Bryce Harper. They have other players. How is their salary, their payroll, I should say, lower than the Mets?
The cheesesteaks are like
they don't really have a ton of depth. They don't have a ton of depth.
So they basically got Realmuto, Harper, and then a couple of guys that they're paying $100,000 to.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
Crazy, but
I mean, the last time they offered a really big contract, it worked out really well, didn't it, for Howard?
Yeah,
this is true. But yeah, Realmuto staying.
He had a good year.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, the Mets they tender a contract to They tender an offer to Bauer. We'll see we'll see how he feels about it. It's a short one too, right? It's 3 years, I think, 2 or 3 years.
It's a buyer's market right now.
They said that it's not going to eclipse the per year, whatever the hell that acronym they use is, for Garrett Cole. So Garrett Cole will still be the highest pitcher in New York. So don't worry about that. But whatchamacallit? Yeah, no, I think it's 30 something million. I mean, it's like $10 million more a year than Jacob deGrom is getting. And no offense to Trevor Bauer, and I hope he winds up being an amazing pitcher, and I hope he does come to the Mets. But I'm still putting Jacob deGrom above Trevor Bauer at this particular point. But hey, we'll see what happens. It would be an amazing lineup, right? A starting lineup. Pitching wise, starters, I should say.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you get Bauer and deGrom, I mean, yeah, that
deGrom, Bauer, Carrasco, Stroman, Syndergaard when he comes back, and throw Peterson on the tail end of that. Because I think the talk is that if they do get Bauer, they're gonna have to cut some salary, and they're probably Steven Matz is going bye. So his career with the Mets will be done. But
you can go to the Yankees.
There you go. Yeah, you can have Matz if you want.
Yeah.
Who?
Steven Matz. No,
there's only one pitcher on the Mets.
Does it ring a bell? Okay.
That's coming off injury too, right?
That'd be
he's perfect for the Yankees.
There you go.
Another reclamation project.
Yeah, they must have stock in surgical.
Well, you just figure if you keep doing it, eventually one of them is going to work out.
The last one that worked out was Tommy John.
Well, I got a question for you about that. What do you think about the Yankees inter-division trading, sending Ottavino to the Red Sox?
They didn't get anything for him.
They got cash considerations and a future draft pick or something.
It just tells you how much they wanted to get rid of him.
What does that mean? Cash considerations?
I think the Yankees knew something there more than. I mean, he really did fall off the cliff last year, and that tells me that they're trying to make room for another pitcher, and who that's going to be, I don't know. But Bauer hasn't signed on the dotted line yet.
Yeah, no, he has not. Could you imagine if after all of that, Bauer winds up going to the Yankees?
I wouldn't.
After all the Mets playing footsie with them, but hey,
why would you even say that out loud?
They're definitely They're definitely bolstering their bullpens, the Yankees and Mets both. What do you think about Chris Bryant? You think the Cubs are going to keep him, or
I think so.
You think they're gonna deal him? They're gonna move him? Because the
I
Mets,
don't know. They're in a saver mode right now. So
yeah. Well,
and that might be that third big name. If you're thinking the Mets want to bring in 3 guys, and if they bring in Bauer, right?
I don't think they're going to trade him unless they get something. They cannot. It's got to be a really good deal for the Cubs. I just don't think they're going to get rid of him. But they're the Cubs. They've,
And there's still a whatchamacallit, a need in center field for the Mets. I mean, nothing against Brendan Nimmo, but if he's the opening day center fielder, they kind of didn't address probably their most glowing need now this year. But there's still is Bradley's still floating around out there. What do you think? I at this point, my particular take, honestly, is, and I wrote an article. I put it up on the Facebook and the blog the other day. I think the Mets need to go out and they need to sign the best defensive center fielder for the least amount of money that they can get. Because they have the bats. As long as the guy's not an automatic out, as long as even if he's hitting 200, as long as his glove is lightning, and I think that's where they need to go.
Who is that, though? I mean, is there really a great defensive center fielder that you're not going to have to pay any money for?
I'm not talking about spending, signing them to a ham sandwich.
I mean, if they get Trevor Bauer, then
Bradley's looking at like what, 10 or 12 million a year, 15 million a year, something like that. So that's still a hit to the luxury tax there. What else are you going to do to move salary around there?
Do they have any infielders that can be moved to the outfield?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're if they have anybody to. I mean, they're going to start this year. They're going to start Jeff McNeil at second, and assuming that they're not making a trade with Chicago for Chris Bryant, you're looking at J.D. Davis at third. So your outfield. I mean, you're going to have to throw Dom Smith. You're going to have to keep Brendan Nimmo in center field to put Dom Smith in left field, and they have depth on your bench.
All right, here are some free agent names here. For outfielders. You got Gotti. Can always bring in Gotti. Brett Gardner, that is.
I know what you meant.
You got Ryan Braun. You got Jay Bruce. That'd be part 2 for him. You got, of course, Jackie Bradley's probably one of the most.
I mean, Davis can play the outfield.
You got Delino DeShields.
Who's playing third?
I know that should get a third. You guys aren't going to agree with me.
Who's that?
I think they should go after Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, well, who's a free agent? I don't know if you want him.
Though. It's a trade.
How about Yasiel Puig?
Yasiel Puig.
Take a chance on him. I don't know. How much is he going to make?
Take a flyer on Puig. Yeah, but
he's a right fielder. He's a right fielder, and he's a right fielder. Not a good one. Yeah. He's got a great arm.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You don't want to put him in.
But unless it's hit right to him.
Yeah.
Right. No, you certainly don't want to put him in center, but
I think the Mets.
I think he's kind of a cancer in a weird way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
The Dodgers only won after they got rid of him.
I think the Mets kind of dropped the ball when they didn't go after Hernandez. Kiki Hernandez. That would have been the answer there, because he's a multifunctional player. He could add a great glove in center field, and you could move him around. You could use him elsewhere. He could even play the infield if you needed him to. But hey, and he's got a decent bat.
Look, if whoever gets Bauer, if it's a team that already has a bona fide ace, and he's their 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. That's going to be who wins this postseason. Right. Springer's a little bit of an anomaly in that he's a great offensive player and he's clutch. He's proven himself in clutch situations, and he's performed in the postseason. Other than that, I think a lot of this is you just don't know. And I think the Mets have done a pretty good job. I mean, I think the Mets have positioned themselves. I think they're definitely better than they were last year, at least on paper.
Sure. Absolutely.
I think the Blue Jays are another team that's looking pretty good, and I don't think the Dodgers are done yet. Don't count out the Dodgers in a lot of these talks. I think there's going to be some movement there, and Arenado might wind up going to the Dodgers.
Yeah, was there talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always rumor. I mean, Dodgers are definitely looking for a third baseman. So, they have one to replace.
Right.
So and they're in a position where they're obviously coming off a championship. I don't think they want to step backwards by any means.
The only other thing the Mets could do too is they could re-sign Marisnik and keep him in center field.
I don't, as long as they have somebody who can catch a fly ball, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, that's really all they need. They should. I mean, if we put Bauer in the mix, then you're going to have great pitching and you're going to have some good hitting. So you really just need somebody who's going to keep the ball from falling in.
And to your point about Gardner, I'm not sure he's a center fielder anymore. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of names on this list that you do not want out in center field.
Well, that's the same thing as talking about Springer, right? I mean, he's 31. How many more years is he going to be playing center field? He's going to move to a corner at some point during that 5-year deal that he signed with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not going to be in center field till he's 36.
Right, and he might see him at first base and DH too. You never know.
So if, any team, Mets or Jays or anybody, spending all that money to get 2 or 3 years in center field, and then you have somebody that's
it's worth it if you win.
It's worth it. I mean, 3 years is a lot now. I mean, it's
it's worth it if you win.
So that's what it's all about.
Nobody is being signed for the last 2 years of their contract, 4 or 5 or 6 year contract, or 8 year.
You're basically signing them whatever the total amount of money is for 3 years, but you get to pay it off over 5.
Right,
and you can hold on to them or trade them or whatever you want to do for those last couple of years. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the DH, are we going to see the DH in the National League? Is it going to happen this year?
I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know.
I think it's going to happen eventually.
It's going to happen eventually, and I think they already kind of said that no matter what happens this year, you're looking next year or the year after, you're definitely going to see it. That'll be universal DH, but I don't think they've made an announcement just yet. One thing that they did have made an announcement the other day. I don't know if you noticed, if you saw this. As far as spring training goes, Manfred said that they're starting on time. Be prepared to go on time. Get down to Florida. Get out to Arizona. Everything's on time. Well, Cactus League, the powers that be in the Cactus League, out in Arizona, have gotten in touch with Rob Manfred and begged him to delay spring training because Arizona is just a cesspool right now with COVID.
Yeah.
And they don't want anybody coming out there.
There was some talk I heard today actually about just delay the season by a month, and you can still have all the games. You'll be obviously playing into November, but depending on where we are with the pandemic, you might be. Your playoffs are probably likely going to be in a bubble anyway.
Right.
So you just make that bubble, with a ceiling in a dome stadium, and then you can have the World Series in November. But saying a lot of problems could potentially be alleviated. Just delay things by a month. Just start in March instead of February.
Middle of March, let pitchers and catchers go. In the beginning of April, everybody else goes out there, and the season starts in May.
Yep.
Yeah, and then goes all the way through 162 games. Season ends the end of October instead of the end of September, and so forth. Yep.
Now, let me ask you guys this, because I've heard this also, rumor kind of jumping around. Speaking of the DH again, there was another, I'm not going to say it was a proposal, but an idea was you would have the DH in the game until your starting pitcher comes out.
I did hear that. Use the DH for the starting pitcher, and then
once your starter's gone, then the DH goes away as well, which I thought was a very interesting idea because it does preserve some of the,
too complicated.
Now the national, it's going to make it
either you have it or you don't.
The only thing is it would put an end sort of to the, in many cases, the opener strategy, where you put pitcher out there for an inning, and then you get to the guy that you really want to start the game.
Because
so to hurt the Tampa Bay, and I just
we found out last season. Yeah, but as we found out last season, apparently that's a more popular strategy. At least I can speak for myself.
Especially in the play. I mean, maybe this year we'll have more than a day's rest every 4 games in the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, that was part of that strategy, and it certainly changes how your pitching staff, what you need on the pitching staff.
Yeah.
It's either have it or don't have it.
I agree. It's an interesting idea.
And let's not have all these wild.
This is just to.
I'm so sick of a team that wins 100 games being able to get knocked out of the playoffs in one game because they happen to be in a better division. It's right. Just I'm old school. I hate it. I hated when they added a third, 2 more divisions in baseball. Right. It's like when it was just American League and National League. You had your pennant winners, the teams that played each other for the pennant, and then the World Series. But I don't know. Hopefully, whatever they did last year does not carry over again into the postseason this year. It's just too much.
The right now it says Major League Baseball and Players Union at an impasse over the universal DH and expanded postseason in 2021.
Well, yeah, because Major League Baseball says if you want expanded postseason, then we need the universal DH. Right. But I don't understand why the players would be against the universal DH. It seems like it's good for owners and it's good for the players, right? You get extra players who play, and the owners don't have to have their $35 million a year pitchers run the bases and hit the ball.
Right.
So I don't know what. I think just because it's being tied,
prolong people's careers.
Yeah, but I think because it's being tied to the expanded playoffs, which I think the players have, they're not happy with the financial structure of that. I believe it's just why they're not agreeing to it, because you would think that would be good for both the players. That's good, more money all around. But the players, I think, are saying not enough more money for us.
Right.
So keep those two things separate, and we can probably all agree on.
Do the players realize that Major League Baseball has no income coming in right now?
I don't think they care.
Probably not.
Probably not fans in the seats. That's not their problem.
Yeah,
they're still playing. They're still working. So.
No, and I'm not suggesting they should play for minimum wage, but
no, it's your point is taken, but it's not. Look, it's the strongest sports union we have, right? It's baseball.
Mm-hmm. How much did Gary Sanchez get paid last year to hit 116?
I would have taken half of what he made.
I really do think I could hit 100 if you gave me half of what you gave him.
There you go.
I feel like I could have less pass balls and hit 100.
Less pass balls.
Well, maybe that'll be a segment. Pass balls.
That's right. Pass balls.
Worst catchers in the league on a year. Anyway, some ideas kicking around, but I think the DH it might be here this season.
Yeah.
If they separate it from playoff expansion, then I don't see why everybody would.
You just make it really wacky. Like the DH has to pitch one inning.
The DH, yeah. At some point during the game, the DH has to go out and pitch one inning.
But not 3 consecutive outs. He could pitch 1 out in 1 inning and then 1 out in another inning. Why not? Sure.
And spread it out even more. He could throw 3 pitches and then come out.
Whatever it takes.
Right? Whatever it takes. Yeah. He's got to throw at least 20 pitches.
No, or 15 with 2 different arms.
Right, yeah. Alternate. Why the hell not?
That's right.
Yep. But us baseball purists, we're the crazy ones. Right?
We are, absolutely.
We just want to leave things alone, but we have to move
If
forward.
it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there's something wrong with that statement, I suppose. So
yeah,
right.
There you go.
Well, that's changed.
Exactly. Well, that's this week's hot stove. Why don't you check that score again? I think it's changed a little bit according to my calculations here. Let's get to some NBA.
Let's see. What do we got here? Brooklyn's surging back now.
Look at that. What is it?
7 minutes left in the fourth, and they're up 101-97, which means nothing. That means nothing. A 10-point lead by either one of these teams means nothing. This is just I don't know.
The game of the night is the Sixers and Lakers.
Yeah.
2-point game in the third right now.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, did you watch who did Denver play last night? Did you watch the game last night, Harry?
Yeah.
What did you think of that? I thought the phrase "flagrant 2" on Murray's foul was the most appropriate. That was the most appropriate flagrant 2 ever.
Here's
he just whacked another guy right in the nads.
There's
and they reviewed it. When they went
apropos for flagrant 2.
Yeah. Jamal Murray came out to the rest of the country during the bubble time last year, right. And that was the best of Jamal Murray. But he's so inconsistent and such a it's he's a great player, but he is he never seems to really be. His head is never really there. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trade talk, a lot of rumors of Bradley Beal going somewhere, and
speaking of that, he's playing against his old teammate John Wall tonight, right?
Last night.
Oh, that was last night.
Yeah. Wall won, but Beal had a great game. I think Beal scored 33 points. Wall had 25. They both played really well. But it's Nuggets are up on the Heat. Nuggets are on a little bit of a heater. They're starting to get. It's funny. I was watching, First Take this morning, and they're talking about who's already in the lead for MVP, and they're talking about Embiid, and they're talking about LeBron James, and nobody talks about Nikola Jokic. He's averaging 25.4, 11.9 rebounds, and 9.3 assists, and he's second in the league behind Embiid in efficiency rating, and yet no talk.
Well, but he's not
no talk at all.
He's not colorful. He doesn't,
No, he's.
compared to Joel Embiid,
sure.
He's.
I think he's a lot more exciting to watch than Joel Embiid.
No, but I mean, Embiid talks and makes noise and chatters and gets attention that way.
But I mean,
either you love him or you hate him. You want him to shut up, or you love what he brings.
And Jokic
doesn't say anything.
Yeah, he's off to a great start, and he's carrying this Nuggets team. And look, I think at some point, if he keeps up those numbers and almost averages a triple-double as a center.
Now Atlanta's up by 3.
Now Atlanta's up 3.
Now they're up 104, 101.
That was a 7.70 run just there.
Yeah.
What is it with the Clippers? They all have COVID now or something?
Do they?
I don't know. Why is Leonard in? I don't know. I can't keep up. I don't think Jimmy Butler's played since like Thanksgiving. I just don't know what's going on with any of the league anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we know that Denver's beating up on Miami tonight, so that's good.
Well, let's look at the starters for the Nets. The plus-minus for Durant, -9. DeAndre Jordan, -5. Kyrie Irving, -12. James Harden, now -3. It's their bench that's been making up the difference. It's crazy. The Hawks are not a bad team.
The Hawks can score.
They're
great. Listen, DeAndre Jordan's a -5. Right, Irving's a -11. Bruce Brown's got 12 points off the bench. Joe Harris got 6. I don't know. The Nets are an enigma. I mean, they're all playing together. We're not hearing any sniping or anything, but they got stuff to figure out. And number one is how to play some defense.
67 points between Harden, Durant, and Irving.
I'll tell you what. I watched the Nets the other day when they actually won, and Harden was really actually played a pretty good. I mean, his defense is horrible, but he was distributing the ball, and I think he had 10 shot attempts when I was watching.
Yeah, he's kind of taken the back seat in a lot of these games, but I noticed, I watched him a couple nights ago, I guess, and I noticed both him and Durant, there was a little bit of the old Olay defense going on, which, it was a situation where you weren't going to stop the ball from going in the hoop, but, you could foul the guy. That was the only way, right? If you hacked him, then you might be able to stop the shot. And it was kind of like, yeah, go ahead. Just go on by. We've seen a lot of that, but
you said it before, yeah.
I don't know if they had the game on. We were having dinner, and I don't know if they were in foul trouble or whatever. But there was just kind of, it was like a gimme, right? You put the ball within 6 inches of the cup, and they go, all right, don't just pick the ball up. You don't have to hit that one. Like, I'm not going to stop you. So it might be a 3-point play, so I'll make sure it's only a 2. Go ahead, ole! And I was watching a little bit of that from Harden and Durant both. So
they're Matador's costumes now for the uniforms. And
James Harden's biggest defensive move is as soon as the guy gets into the lane, he starts running to the other end of the court.
Yeah, but listen, that's.
He did have a block. He did attempt to play.
In his first couple games, he had some blocks and some steals, but he's rapidly kind of returning to, that's his old style.
He's never been a defensive. That's where the Nets are going to get beat up inside. They're just not. They don't have really a defensive presence.
Nope.
And there's with Harden and Irving in your backcourt.
And they got rid of some of their best defensive players in the Harden trade.
Yeah.
And Jordan does what he does, but he's not exactly clogging up the middle. What's he got? 1 assist, 7 rebounds. That's not too bad. He's got 3 blocks, but he doesn't. I don't know. They're going to win 140 to 139, or they're going to lose 145 to 139, or whatever. And
right,
I don't see them really improving significantly over the course of the season, because why would they? That's not who they are, and they don't have a coach who's particularly defensive minded and who's up, first time NBA coach. So it's it's going to be exciting.
Sure.
To watch, certainly they're talented. But
well, we keep saying that, right? They just have to outscore their opponents every time they get on the court. That's all they have to do.
Yeah,
But if they can,
on paper they look great. I still think the Clippers are the only team that has a chance of beating the Lakers. I really do.
Yeah, that's the problem. If you do run into a good defensive team, you're not gonna put up $120 on everybody. So if they can get a little better at defense,
right,
then that might give them an edge.
Well, they can't get any worse.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's probably true.
Switch it over to the Knicks for a second. Just the other night, yesterday, they played the Jazz.
They were up big, and then they just faded.
They just faded. They
opposite
had
of the
game
night
as the
opposite of the night before, where they were down huge and then almost came back.
But yeah, they looked great against the Jazz until the fourth. So
they're on a road trip, and I think it's getting the best of them.
What about Rivers though? I mean, he was hitting three after threes.
He does it every once in a while.
But yeah.
He does it every once in a while.
He's a couple of fun players to watch. Rivers is fun to watch. Quickly's been fun to watch too. The other night, last night he really didn't do much, but
they've made a big improvement on the defensive side, and that's what keeps them in the game.
Yeah.
The ball doesn't move well at times, and I think they're still trying to figure out their rotations. But, Rivers had a great game, and then he'll disappear for forever.
Right.
Same thing with RJ Barrett. He can put up 23 or 24, and then the next game he shoots 3 for 14 and has 8 points. So it's they're inconsistent, and they just don't have. They just don't have that one superstar. The ball sort of dies around Randall. The ball doesn't move very well. He gets his shots. He's a good scorer. He's better in the paint than anybody on the Knicks in a long time.
Right.
But it doesn't seem to move very well, and they don't seem to have a lot of balance. But look, they're probably the most improved team in the NBA right now.
Quickly's been that way the last couple of games too. He had Quickly had 31 points on Sunday night. He had 6 points last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. Look,
a lot of his points came in garbage time the night before, though. Yeah.
Randall you expected 31, but still, that's a big difference, though.
Yeah.
Randall was minus 14. Robinson was minus 15. Barrett was minus 7. Alec Burks was minus 5.
Yep.
What's going on at Toppin? Is he still coming back from injury? Is he going to be a starter soon, or what do you guys think?
He'll come off the bench.
He'll come off the bench.
Where's he going to start? Is he going to start over Randall, or is he going to start over RJ Barrett? I don't see him starting.
Yeah.
And I think the Knicks need some firepower. The Knicks bench has been, the good thing with them is they've been able to sort of have a little bit of a balance, even though Thibodeau doesn't go too deep into his rotations.
Right.
But their bench has been different days, and I think especially in today's NBA, different days, different guys get different minutes, and it's just I think who's available and what they're who's able to play. Mitchell Robinson's been really up and down.
Sure.
Him and Randall sometimes don't look like they're matching up all that well, and then Noel comes in and looks great. But Noel has a great game, and then he's got 2 points.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, Toppin's been coming off the bench. He had 4 points last night, but he played 13 minutes.
Yeah,
and that was it. But he would.
I just they seem kind of high on
the other forward. It's Randall, and the other forward is Burks.
Yeah. Well, Burks is a shooting guard.
No, that's what I mean. Like they seemed high on Toppin coming out of the draft, and I saw
small forward and shooting guard, but he was playing forward last night. So
yeah, well, they really I mean, I think Barrett. Is Barrett a 2 or 3? Is Knox a 3 or 2? I mean,
I'd say Knox.
Knox is a 3.
Knox is a 3. Barrett's a 2.
I'd say Barrett's a 2 on this team. Yeah.
So
they're look. Let's. What is
they're just 1 or 2 superstars away from being a championship team.
Well, there's what is it? Mike Wilbon always says they're 2 years away, or Tony Kornheiser says they're 2 years away from being 2 years away. Look, here's the thing about the Knicks, though. If they're somewhat, I think I said this last week or 2 weeks ago. If they're somewhat close to 500, you're happy, right?
Right. I think they'll be 10, 12 games under 500, but that's still a huge improvement to where they were.
If they finish the season 10 games under 500, I'm fine with that.
I think
what they did the last couple of years.
I think they'll probably be 15. 12 to 15 games under 500.
If they're that much better record wise, and again, we're seeing a tenacious, young, energetic defensive team, then you've got something that can attract some outside talent.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I seeing this right? By the way, switch back over to the game of the night, so to speak. 116, 114 with 56 seconds.
56 seconds. Yeah. This is like every night is like an all-star game.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the other scores right now.
The game of the night is
Phillies have put up the 83. I got here
83 to 74. Yeah,
Milwaukee put up 101 with 5 minutes left over Toronto. So but. Every Nets game, they're gonna get 100 and they're gonna give up 100, and then what the other 2 digits are, we don't know.
We don't know. It's gonna be one.
It's gonna be triple digits. On both sides of the scores.
There will be over 200 points scored. We know that.
I will tell you this, and not that they necessarily cover each other directly, but Joel Embiid has Anthony Davis's number. He's got 23 points and he's a plus 16 right now, whereas Anthony Davis is a minus 11. So it's.
I think Embiid is an unappreciated talent.
If he could stay healthy, and I think Doc Rivers has done a good job of kind of changing things up a little bit and giving him some shooters. I mean, having a Seth Curry on there changes how a Joel Embiid can play. I mean, trust me, I know what it's like to have a big man who you dump it into, and then he looks to pass it out, and he's looking around going. Is there anybody? I
really want to give the ball.
Yeah, is there anybody else?
They got Danny Green. They got Simmons at 13 tonight.
Yeah, you got Green, Tobias Harris, and Seth Curry.
And Seth Curry,
and then you got Simmons, who
if he ever gets a jump shot, he'll be amazing.
Yeah. He'll never. Let me let you in on a little secret. He's never going to have a jump shot.
Have a jump shot.
Nobody develops a jump shot in the NBA.
You have it or you don't.
Who was somebody who was just an atrocious shooter who became just lights out? No one.
Well, you did.
Well, but not lights out, but I don't know.
Yeah.
At least it's something.
Yeah, I went from taking no shots a game to 3.
Right. Well, that's 300% improvement.
Yeah. I just saw this friend of mine, family who lives in Florida, and they have a daughter who's I think 15, and she plays on the school basketball team. And they just completed their season. She's always posting a picture of the score. I don't think they didn't lose a game.
Right.
They blew out every team they played by at least 20 points. The final game was 54-4. So
54-4.
I don't know who they're playing, but I keep kidding that they're like playing like elementary school teams or something.
That's crazy.
By the
way, it's tied at the end of regulation.
Yeah, you got overtime.
We're going to go to overtime again.
You got an overtime game,
I'll tell you what, Trey Young is he's got 22 tonight. I feel like that's a low night for him. He's a pretty darn good player.
Yeah.
The Talks have a pretty, when you got Cam Reddish and Danilo Gallinari coming in off the bench, they got Clint Capella. They're not a bad team.
Yeah, it's just funny that you're looking at this, and I know they've only been playing together for a short time at this point, but Harden, Durant, and Irving should be, this should have been 146, 116 right now.
Well, here's the thing: Durant has 27, Irving's got 22, and Harden has 29.
Right.
They're doing what they're supposed to do. There's only one other guy in double digits.
Two.
Bobby Brown.
Yeah. Bobby Brown is playing to the Nets.
Like they're one guy who can play some defense.
Yeah.
Well, look, we're about 20 games into the season now, right? So we they're a little bit delayed because Kyrie was out for a week, but I was going to say by we have how many? Is it 72 games this season?
60. Okay.
So certainly we're coming up rapidly.
We're third of the way through the season right now.
Yeah, we're third of the way through the season. So I would say in another 10 games, and if you don't see, that should tell you basically where things are. You should be gelling and coming together certainly by the midway point.
Yeah, I mean they really should be, because if they're not at least in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm not say win it. If they're not at least in the Eastern Conference Finals, it was a bust, right? Doing this.
Yeah. If they don't go to the championship,
I say the championship, but I'll even give them. I'll back it up a series.
If you get there and you lose to the Lakers, then you could say, okay, well, it's the Lakers with the greatest player ever and AD, and they're a better team than they had last year when they, But if you don't get there, then that's an absolute failure.
Right.
I mean, right now, I think they have a hard time against the Sixers. I don't think they have an easy time against the Bucks.
They're not going to have an easy time. No.
Toronto is not even in the playoff run right now. But if Toronto gets their act together, that's not going to. Miami's
dismal. They're running out of time.
Is Jimmy Butler hurt, or it's like
we were saying that. We were saying that they were going to beat towards the top of the standings for the.
Well, they just haven't had a full team. It's this COVID shit. I think Jimmy Butler's out because of COVID, isn't he? I don't know. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are out for protocol, which means that the strippers were over.
There you go.
It's just I don't know.
It's worth it though.
I mean, but a play if they don't have a
good
bubble,
strippers.
If they don't have a bubble, like and they're traveling, an entire playoff series could be dictated by COVID.
Yeah, well, it could be.
Live and learn.
You live and you learn.
They may. I don't know that they don't. They may have to bubble up before the regular season ends. I don't know if you could do that.
If this keeps
maybe
up,
for the last,
Well, you got to remember. I mean, we're looking at the Heat are in Florida, right? Florida, and this goes back to baseball we're talking about, right? The second, Florida is almost as big a cesspool for COVID right now as Arizona is, and
somehow it worked last time though.
Yeah, but they all stayed in one area.
That's what they need to do. I think they need to do it in North Dakota.
They're not. They're in the Heat are in the bubble in South Beach. That's not.
They need to do it in North Dakota.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, throw it in Montana. Put everything.
Bozeman, Montana. There you go.
Yeah, Bozeman, Montana.
You want to scare a bunch of freaking white people? Put the NBA bubble in Bozeman.
Throw it in Bozeman, Montana.
I don't even think they have a basketball court in Bozeman.
Yeah, probably not. But you never know. Anybody out there listening to this from Bozeman, Montana, let us know if there's a basketball court in town.
Well, we have the University of Montana running minors, and they're fantastic.
Let us know. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that game. Let's. I don't think we're gonna be. It depends on how quickly they get through those few minutes of the overtime period. But is anything else we want to talk about for NHL other than the fact that what are the Rangers doing?
When's top 10 Zamboni drivers?
Top 10 Zamboni drivers is coming up, but the
old Gummy McNeil is always the best.
Right, exactly. They've won one game. They won their second game against the Islanders. They're 1-4-1 right now, and the Islanders are. I think
the Islanders are going to be all right.
The Islanders are going to be right there again, and the Devils are even looking better than the Rangers right now. But
that whole division, the East Division, it's pretty tight right now. It's everybody's got at least 6 wins.
Yeah. 6 points.
6 points. Yeah.
6 points. Yeah. I knew what you meant though.
You're looking at the wins and losses. You got 1-4-1 for the Rangers. You got one overtime loss. The Caps are undefeated, so. Yeah. But there's only 1 point separating them. So
yeah,
that's the funny thing about
the Capitals are undefeated, and
yeah, they're only a point ahead of the Rangers and the Islanders and the Devils.
Yeah, hockey's what it is. It's going to be the Capitals and a bunch of teams named after natural disasters.
This is true, but no, I think you're still looking at. I don't know. I think you got to look at Tampa. It's still too early in the season. They played 6 or 7 games. A couple teams have played 8 games.
Could this finally be the year?
The year
when the Maple Leafs win a championship.
The Maple Leafs win a championship. We will see. What about your Avalanche out there? What do you think?
Not my Avalanche.
Not your Avalanche.
They look good. They lost a couple that they should have won. They're what are they 4-3? I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're I think they'll be. I think they'll wind up. I think they'll wind up giving Vegas a run for their money in that division, and I don't know. The Avalanche, I think, are going to be a team to deal with this year.
Yeah, they look good. They look good. Blues look good too in the West. So
Blues look good.
But we'll see.
The Canadians are undefeated too.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great just to see the Canadians and the Maple Leafs,
and maybe a decent Jets team.
Well,
come on, Winnipeg! I got a new Jets to root for.
Well, what's nice is that whole the whole North Division is Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh, no, except for no, it is.
North is all Canada. Yeah,
keeping the Canadians in Canada.
Yeah. Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, and Ottawa.
The Ottawa Rough Riders, right?
Yeah.
That's Saskatchewan.
and every team in Edmonton are the Oilers.
Every team,
because that's other than sports teams. There's nothing else in Edmonton.
Yeah,
have you ever been to Edmonton?
Nope.
Have you been to Edmonton?
I have.
You have been to Edmonton?
Yeah.
Do they have anything to do with oil there?
It's a strange place. There's a lot of lumber that goes on there too. There's a lot of manufactured wood products that come out of Edmonton. But they are the nicest people in the world, but they're exactly they're like a caricature of like somebody out of Wayne's World. And that mall is the strangest mall. I think there was dolphins. I might have been dreaming this, but I think there was dolphins in the mall. And then there's some strange.
Was there water or just dolphins?
Like walking around or
old 72 dolphins? Yeah, signing autographs.
Nick Bonacani was head of.
Oh, you betcha! Our best undefeated team.
Jim Kick,
almost as good as the '63 Maple Leafs. You bet.
Yeah, we all got together when them Patriots were winning, but then they lost the Super Bowl, and we celebrated with some hard cider.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta love it. I've never been out west in Colorado. I've never been out west in Canada.
No.
But I'll have to go now. I'll check out these dolphins in the mall.
Well, not now.
I would start with Vancouver over Edmonton.
Oh, I want to get to Vancouver's definitely on my list. I got to get out to Vancouver.
Now that I've offended Western Canadians.
No, not at all.
There's only 6 of them in the whole.
They put on their.
I can't show my face in Edmonton now.
In Regina.
We'll just there you go. We'll make up big locker room toques and we'll send them up there. And
sure. Yeah. Once everything clears up, we'll do a remote broadcast from Edmonton. Calgary.
Absolutely.
We'll get Lanny McDonald on the show.
Absolutely.
The Calgary top 10 Calgary Flames of all time.
We'll take in an Oilers game and we'll do a live remote from the arena.
That's right.
Not to go back to NBA, I'll just take the crawl off here. The Nets are pulling away a little bit. 127, 121 now.
Yeah, still 2.5 left.
Still 2.5 left.
Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. But that's the way it goes, shall we say. Well.
Oh, and the 76ers are up by 9 on the Lakers.
And the Texans hired the Baltimore Ravens assistant coach David Culley. So it looks like, maybe Eric Bieniemy is not going to be a head coach this year
again.
Yep, it does look that way. Well, his biggest thing is the fact that he keeps playing. Right, he keeps going. He goes all the way to the Super Bowl. I think that might have something to do with it. He's not going to sit down and have a talk with anybody while he's while his team's still playing. So.
But what's a few extra weeks? Is that really the difference maker? We just can't wait.
We need to know now. Well, that's everybody. Is that every team? No, that's not every team. Has Atlanta hired? Yes, Atlanta hired. Yeah, that is everybody.
Yeah. So
yeah. You are right.
You're right. It's because he's in the playoffs, not because he's
in the playoffs.
Not because of racism or anything like that.
No. So it's because he's in the playoffs. All right. Well, on that
just
note,
like we have just too many black head coaches right now.
Certainly.
We don't need another one right now.
No.
We don't need like 3. Right. That would be insane.
Well, on that note, folks, we'll wrap the show up for today. We want to thank everyone for watching, and for those of you listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. And don't forget to visit our website, www.loggeroom.com. That's LAGERROM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Logger Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday. Starting next week, it's going to be at 7:30, folks. We're moving it a half an hour, 7:30. It's been starting close to that anyway, so we're calling it 7:30. For those of you that want to just listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a great weekend. There's no football to watch unless you want to watch the
Pro Bowl celebration.
Pro Bowl celebration and a video game in place of it. But if you want to, if that's your thing, enjoy it. Enjoy the hell out of it. And we'll be back next week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys. Cheers.
Peace.
Look at the little Tula. She's talking to the producer. And I'm not in a jumpsuit.